Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm.
There we are.
Yeah. All right. So, for those who don't know, we have a little technical difficulties, and I don't know what the
keeps overheating my fucking phone.
Yeah. So it's a little weird right now. So yeah. That's pretty much what's going on. So we're using Discord right now. By the way, you guys can go to our official Discord because we have links all the time now down in the description. Also, this will be our last podcast for the month because we are almost out of hours for this month. So next week, there will not be a podcast.
Which seems really weird, given that this is the first time we've had a break in time since we started, which is really, really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And especially with this week starting like half a minute too late. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So we it's gonna be a weird thing with this. I have no idea what I'm doing with this, but yeah. So basically, we are returning to the original article we had been doing for the last 2 weeks. We're gonna finish that up. We only have a little bit left.
Write that article.
Give me a second while I do that with Dawn here. And then I will pull it up for you guys on this here. So this is fun. Damn thing is so fucking slow. Yeah, okay, so I'm trying to pull this up.
It's just been that kind of day, folks.
Yeah. It is an article of games to its neutrality. We're just finished the last move forward. Yeah, okay. I don't need more interesting story about villains or tales about the ability of heroes is the latter. Yeah. Okay. What feels infuriating about this perspective is this: if you don't fight for your rights in the correct way, hold on. I'm trying to. This, like I said, this thing is. All right. What feels infuriating about this perspective is this: if you don't fight for your rights in the correct way, the polite, civil way that fits snugly within the frameworks of society, you will be tarred with the same brush as those who are actively bolstering the forces behind inequality. There's some hypocrisy there.
Okay. I forget the person's name who has ejaculated the screed for the last 3 goddamn weeks.
It doesn't matter at this point.
What the fuck is the... Okay. Well, person who ejaculated the screed for the last 3 goddamn sessions worth of the show. There are evils, okay, other than inequality. I know that is anathema to every fiber of your being as a person in the media in this modern day and age, especially on the internet. But there are evils aside from inequality, okay? There are evils aside from human ones. And those too need to be addressed, okay? Can't just... What happened?
No, I just turned it off because I think it might have been slow on my computer a little bit. So, but StreamYard still has it, so I think that's what matters.
Okay, success! Yay!
Yeah.
Okay. Where was I in the middle of my rant?
Yeah, that's my bad. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It just distracted me because I was mid ripping this guy a new asshole, and now I'm...
Do you want me to reread it?
No. I remember what he said. I'm just. Are we sure everything is being picked up by everything? And okay.
Yeah.
I hope so. Anyway, yeah. Person who created this article. There are evils in the world other than inequality. And even if there weren't, there are inequalities that are not human in nature. And incidentally, it's not that you can't do good things with unorthodox methods. That's why the anti-hero archetype exists, mind you. However, the more morally ambiguous your means are, the more people are going to be negatively judging your ends. It doesn't matter how much of a grand utopia you want to create if you have to kill every single human being to get there, if you take my meaning. It's the Thanos thing. Even though his argument is perfectly sane and rational in his particular context, he still has to delete half the life in the universe in order to get there. And therefore, it's perfectly legitimate to judge him as a villain. Not saying you have to necessarily judge him as a villain, but the more ambiguous you make your means on a moral level, the more your ends are going to be tainted, no matter how good your ends are. And this is because, despite what everyone in modern philosophical context might tell you, ends cannot justify means, and here's why. Because if you as a person didn't notice that the means were wrong, that saying wouldn't exist. If you didn't need the means to be sane and thereby notice when they weren't, the saying the ends justify the means wouldn't exist because you wouldn't notice the discrepancy between ends and means. But because we fundamentally do notice the discrepancy between ends and means, people created the saying the ends justify the means as a thought-terminating cliche. In a world where the ends and means were synonymous, that saying wouldn't need to exist because the two would be synonymous. Because the two aren't synonymous, we have that saying to essentially assuage guilty consciences when unfortunately tough choices need to be made in the pursuit of the quote-unquote greater good, which is a thing that might not even exist, fundamentally speaking.
Yeah. All right. So moving on.
Next.
Yeah. Okay. We see this in modern politics all the time. Okay, so here's my big issue with this article, which is basically with every fucking article like this one. It doesn't stay on topic. It rambles on for too fucking long. And by the end, you're just left questioning, what the fuck were you even trying to say? What's the argument here?
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty much it.
The argument is, I think, and I might be accused of strawmanning by trying to oversimplify it like this, but games need to return to black and white morality, but only if we, meaning the people on this person's side, get to be the ones who determine what the black and the white are. The problem this person has is not the disillusion of black and white morality. It's that now that black and white morality has been basically dissolved in a broad sort of cultural sense. Now that they want to say, we've discovered what the actual right thing to do is, and the actual wrong thing to do is, they can't. They can't say this is fundamentally good and that is fundamentally bad. They spent the last 50 years pumping narratives full of moral ambiguity, and now they can't undo what they themselves mostly did. It's basically, in academia, there's a thing called critical theory, which is basically a tool to unravel or deconstruct any structure that you could possibly be faced with on an intellectual level, which includes moral structure. And that's a useful tool when you're dealing with the traditionalist right wing, whose only appeal to morality is a appeal to an abstract authority, namely whatever god or social system they believe in. The problem is that once you've spent 50 years unraveling traditionalism, you find you're at a bit of a void, especially if you keep further and further deconstructing things to the point that there's no point of reference. Because in philosophy, you need points of reference to make arguments. It's called the Socratic method. You have to have some premise that you can all agree on to start reasoning from, or nothing can be accomplished. And they've spent 50 years getting us to the point where we can't have a reasonable discussion about anything because we can't find a base premise that can't be eroded with enough poking and prodding at it. So basically, this guy's issue is he's having to deal with the consequences of his and his side's own collective actions, and he doesn't like it because now the rules that he applied to everyone else are being forced to apply to him. So he's trying to come up with a way that he can say, that black and white morality was bad 50 years ago, but our black and white morality totally is unassailable and you can't argue with it without flat out contradicting himself. Unfortunately, because logic still exists in spite of this person's efforts, he can't do that because he's saying basically, those people should have to abide by a different set of rules than my side does, and that's where fundamental hypocrisy happens.
Okay, so move on.
Yeah.
Okay. We see this in modern politics all the time. Politicians who take away health care are just doing their jobs, while those protesting against them for making medication unaffordable are framed as uncivil and dangerous. Okay, one, provide context for that. Two, the circumstances that's the same as context. Provide, context. There needs to be context for that.
Okay, I think I can kind of help clean this up. As someone who genuinely is in favor of Medicare for all, myself, personally, I was a Bernie Sanders supporter both times, I can understand what this person's getting at. However, because I also live in the world and can observe the world, I know what the other side of the argument is getting at. Namely, if you, as a supporter of Medicare for all, decide to burn shit to the ground and destroy things in your pursuit of getting universalized health care, then people are going to judge you for that behavior. And what's more, you are going to taint the position of Medicare for all to such a degree that no one is going to want to listen to you. Because if it's arguments versus arguments, and we can have the argument on rational terms, that's one thing. However, if one side of the argument is being perfectly peaceful and the other side is burning shit to the ground, that somewhat changes the metric upon which we have to judge that argument. No matter how good your intentions may be, if you're burning shit to the ground, you're making your side look bad. And no matter how odious their position might be, the fact that they're at least willing to go through the motions of having a civil discussion does at least put them above the people that are burning shit to the ground.
Right.
My solution to this would be, let's both disregard each other's actions and have the fucking argument on rational terms, please.
Mm-hmm.
Because I genuinely believe that in a system of irrational arguments, not decorum or criminal judgment, Medicare for all is the genuinely better position. But that's neither here nor there, and it's not even relevant to the issue. The issue is the difference that you're missing there, sir, is that no matter how good your intentions are, if you do bad shit in the name of those good intentions, when your opponent is not, or at least doing less bad things in accordance with their intentions, that's going to be taken into account, because these things are variable, do you see? I know you'd like to live in a world where nothing but abstract ideas exist, but unfortunately, we live in a world, and the world contains shit other than abstract ideas.
Okay, done.
And if the things that aren't abstract ideas contradict the things that are, the more solid the thing is and the more straightforward the thing is, the more it's going to matter in the minds of most people. Because most people don't speak abstraction, they speak things that happen.
Moving on?
Moving on.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. It's disingenuous to claim that both sides are equally at fault. One group is championing civil rights or access to healthcare, while the other is looking out for their own interests. I'm not saying that great stories are never compelling or that goodness cannot exist in great universes, but setting ethical considerations aside, to craft such fiction in games, however, or other mediums, can be actively disempowering. We don't currently need more redemption stories about villains or tales about the corruptibility of heroes. The number of games that tell us heroes and villains aren't that different has become numbing and demoralizing. Okay, I feel like you're going to do another rant. No offense. But
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's real shit. In a way, I don't disagree, but
given the context of the argument,
yeah, with context of the argument, I'm not entirely sure. Again, like it's kind of muddy what they're really trying to say, but what I'm trying to say. Overall, I don't disagree. Like, I feel like a lot of games these days, especially like AAA and stuff, are kind of leaning into that. Well, that's mainly an issue of like them trying to be too much like movies. But again, my thing is, the main issue with games these days is there's a lack of creativity and unoriginality, unfortunately. And that can be said with a lot of mediums these days. But okay, effectively, what I am trying to say is, and this boils down to everything we've been saying for the last 2 weeks, what matters is good storytelling and writing. That's really what it's always has boiled down to.
Yeah. Whether your story is morally gray or morally rigid, morally, just ambiguous as a whole, or just and there's the tricky part, not taking a position on morality at all, which some stories do, by the way, completely jettisoned them from the arguments. Whether it's one of those stories or any number along the line, a good story will make anything good, and a bad story will fuck up even the best point.
I also feel like some of the things we're talking about now will relate to the article next we have.
Yes. But further to the actual point that the guy is trying to make, I think the problem he has is, well, it's the Joker problem again. The critical class loves stories where the villain is shown to be more sympathetic than the hero, or equally as sympathetic as the hero, or the hero likes to be seen as corruptible, because it shows a common humanity, and it shows that moral structures aren't as unassailable as the traditionalist would have thought them to be. The problem he's having is, now that he's installed his moral software over the culture, he would very much like for villains to be as villainous as possible and as rigidly villainous as possible. And he would very much like the heroes to be as unimpeachable as they possibly could.
You know, it's just funny. I feel
The
like this.
problem is,
I'm sorry.
you've just now spent 50 years telling us. Go ahead.
Oh no. I'll say it. I'll say it after you're done. It's just I thought of it, and that's my bad.
Okay, but and here's why I say it's the Joker problem. Because if somebody made a movie wherein a villain was fighting for things that the critical class approved of, they wouldn't have a problem with it. In fact, they would have a problem with anyone who did have a problem with it. But because Joker, as an example, empathized with a villain who was a villain on their terms, i.e. what they would define as a villain, then it's horrifying to normalize it, and we can't have any empathy for them whatsoever. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say out of one side of your face, let's have empathy for the villain, maybe there's more to his story, and then out of the other side of his face, the other side of your face go, oh, he's a horrifying incel. You can't simply tell us that he's a human being. We can't be honestly expected to empathize with an incel or a right winger or an anti-SJW or a man. How dare you say that? Those are the unambiguously evil people, and if you make us sympathize with them, that will spread that idea. But you are trying to do exactly that, because now you're having to reap what you sow. If all villains are human, then we have to treat every villain like a human. If all heroes are corruptible, then no hero can have an unimpeachable victory. You have to deal with your own framework. And unfortunately, you're trying to weasel out of your own implications is the problem here.
Right.
Go on, say your thing. Sorry.
Right. Well, no, it's just I think this guy would benefit a lot from watching. I don't know if you know about this video series on YouTube. I watch it a lot because I'm a writer, and it kind of feels like that's mainly what it's for. Trope Talk talks a lot about stuff like, well, basically just tropes in writing and stuff, and how interesting it can be.
I think I'm subscribed to them. I think.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm subscribed to them too. I just sometimes it's hard to remember their video, like their channel name, because it's kind of long. I mean, who are we to say? Yeah. Obviously, but.
Well, yeah, but I know the channel you mean. I know they did did a video on Lovecraft for Halloween a couple years ago.
Okay, so I got it. I got their name right here. Overly Sarcastic Productions. Really check out their stuff. It is really good and fun. Like it's fun. It's a fun channel.
Mm-hmm.
I only see Red's videos though, never Blue's. So you gotta check out his stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff he's talking about, like in the previous paragraph. I think could kind of easily be refuted and stuff through some of those videos I had watched recently, a couple days ago. So, but you know, either way, it's just
But yeah, to sum things up, this is exactly the issue. You know how critics always say, "Oh, this is so great. This is so subversive. It's so great at subverting expectations and making you think and being ambiguous." Well, they will do that as long as it's nothing that they hold dear. But if you hold the subversion and being ambiguous and making people think standard up to their own shit and make them think about their own standards or their own premises, then it's horrifying because it's normalizing something we don't like. That's the dichotomy that this person is trying desperately to double think himself out of. Don't apply the standard of subversion and ambiguity to me. Otherwise, I might not be able to believe the things I currently believe. We can only apply that to your stuff because you obviously don't think very much about your own standards. That's the undercurrent of this argument.
Right, okay, so we got two paragraphs left.
All right, proceed.
Okay. What I crave and what I think we deserve are black and white games centered around the concept of absolute objective morality. Being committed to righteousness can be conflicting, but that's the strength of truly good characters versus the abject danger of truly bad ones. Okay, again, you're very much contradicting everything else you've been saying. And kind of going back and forth is the thing. And also, damn it, I don't really think there is anything like absolute objective morality is also a thing. Like, I don't think that's really a thing, right?
Well, I mean,
what to
be fair, basing your morality on logic, it can be. But
right. However, I would say morality really just depends on how a person defines it, and individual by individual, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more of talking in terms of like the overall. If we're still talking about like video games or stories in general, that more falls in line with like discussion of philosophy and stuff like that.
But yeah, again, this is the issue. They want to have a discussion about morality, but they don't in any way want to be philosophical about it. They want to hand you a list or a book of these are the fundamental truths of the universe, and we have determined these scientifically, so you can't argue with them. That I think deep down is what they want to do. They want to say our moral rules are unassailable because we say so, and any arguments against them prove you're a bad person, while simultaneously looking at everyone else who has ever said that throughout history, and there have been fuck tons of them, and go, well, you can't say that because look how inconsistent this is and that is, and this is exactly why. This is a bit off topic, but it's related, so I think it's worth bringing up. Back in the late 2000s, there was a movement on YouTube called Atheism Plus. For those that don't know, from the beginning of YouTube in 2005 through about 2010, there was a massive movement on YouTube of atheists doing response videos to fundamentalist Christians and basically pointing out everything that was wrong with fundamentalist Christianity. Then some feminists came into the atheism community and said, basically, the atheism movement isn't welcoming enough to women and minorities, and we need to reshape what the word atheism means so that it includes more women and minorities. And naturally, when that happened, a lot of atheists went, but feminism is just as irrational as fundamentalist Christianity, and a lot of them made anti-SJW videos. That's where that came from. While simultaneously, there was the other side of the movement that said, no, feminism is unassailable, and don't you dare call it irrational. It's basically that, but on a game scale. It's we get to say that your standards are irrational, but you don't ever get to hold our standards to that same, or you don't ever get to hold our norms to that same standard. And if you do, that just proves you're a bad person. They want to say none of your claims are valid, but our claims are so valid that if you argue with them, you are either an idiot or you're immoral.
Right.
That's what they want to do.
So, well, I was going to say earlier that the thing is, when you write a story that talks about morality, did I already say this? Like, not objectively, but you could argue that, it is very much just discussing philosophy in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, you
There's
cannot
an entire
have.
branch of philosophy that used to be where you discussed this kind of thing, and it was called ethics.
Actually, no, I didn't have an ethics class. I had an ethnics class. Ethnic studies was where it was.
Which honestly is kind of a microcosm of the entire goddamn problem.
Actually, no, it was a fairly good class. Actually, I liked it.
Well, I'm sure it was good from like an anthropological standpoint. I'm just saying, it's funny to me now, and I remember when this happened at my university. It's one of the reasons why I didn't go back to finish my philosophy degree. Rather than have ethics discussions in ethics classes where like various different viewpoints could be considered, people started having ethics conversations in gender studies courses where there's already a prescribed ideology that you have to look at things through. And if you ever say, hold on a minute, I don't think the patriarchy exists, or I don't think women were oppressed throughout history,
you get beaten.
Or, yeah, you basically, well, no, you don't get beaten, you get socially beaten, you get shamed, and you get ostracized.
I think I've mentioned this many times, but like when I was taking a film course in my school, we had a discussion about the president and stuff. Well, it first started out as a discussion of Black Panther, so this was like 2018, I think.
I think so. Jesus, that was 2 years ago.
I graduated in 2018, so yeah.
So you were a senior in 2018.
Yep.
That's a bit tricky to me.
Why? Because I act older, or just the fact that we've been doing this since I graduated?
But also, it seems both like so long ago, but also like not that long ago.
Brother, you ain't kidding. Anyway, what I was gonna say is it kind of started off as a discussion of Black Panther and how, it was a discussion about like how the kind of like there were a lot of idiots saying that it was like black people were claiming that white people shouldn't go to the movies or something to see Black Panther and stuff like that.
Which, by the way, is the most fuck-tarded thing you could possibly say about a movie.
Right. Also, by the way, ethnic guy here who was arguing on the defense of white people. So.
Yeah.
Well, mainly I was mainly just saying that it's kind of dumb for that it can't be claimed as like 2-1 race for that movie. But I digress.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you want to say something, then say something.
No, you were in progress of a story.
Right. I think I've said this a few times, but it kind of devolved from there. When I was originally, my point was, because I believe one of the kids was like a grade under me. He said that people might have confused the Black Panther movie for a movie about the Black Panthers. Don't even get me started on that line of thinking, but whatever.
How
I don't know.
Anyone be that stupid?
He was okay. What's before senior? I forget. Junior.
Junior.
Yeah, junior. Granted, he looked younger and was probably he did kind of act a little too childish.
I'm impressed that kid knew what the Black Panthers as an organization were.
I'm not gonna lie, he did act a lot like an SJW. So he might have.
I can already feel the irrational need to have.
Anyway, like I said, originally my point was And I was trying to have a discussion on the fact that there have been plenty of other black superhero movies from the past. Granted, I was also trying to play the advocate of those, while those movies did have black characters in them, like black main leads, right?
Mhm.
They weren't as like they haven't garnered the attention like Black Panther has.
Mhm.
So I was trying to I'm trying to have an actual fucking discussion.
Yeah.
Then it devolves.
Like you did.
Then it devolves into our I believe 45th president now, or is he?
I think Trump is 45.
Either way.
I think so, because Obama was 44.
Okay, yeah. So our 45th president, and it just. Oh, no, okay, not even that. That's a totally separate conversation. I don't know where. Both conversations were really stupid, and I felt both ended up with me being ganged up on, in a sense, by others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I tried to have a civil discussion about it, and they kind of just bombarded me with these like accusations and stupid shit that had nothing really to.
I mean, yes, something along the lines of "Herder my racism, herder you black people," so on and so on.
I'll be honest, I just shut myself. Back then, like I said, I was very much an introverted guy, and I would be willing to have conversations with people. It's just, again, like when you're getting ganged up on by like 5 or so people, and they're all kind of saying that you're wrong. Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So again, yeah, it's the whole thing where you try to have a different opinion and try to actually have a responsible discussion. Then that's where shit hits the fan.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
And that is the fundamental problem with gender studies. And before I knew much about like the inner workings of feminism as much as I do now, I remember whenever I ran into somebody who was majoring in gender studies, and I ran into a couple because I was taking philosophy courses and there's some overlap there. My question was always, of all the interesting philosophical things you could specialize in, why would you focus so intensely on gender? Given that you could talk about aesthetics and the nature of what art is, given that you could talk about ethics and the nature of like morality and human behavior.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned, like, you mentioned ethics, and I mentioned my ethnic studies class, which was actually it was a elective. It was an elective class, and I chose it because I thought it was interesting, because I believe I had a ethics class a few years ago, prior to my senior year. So, granted, I don't think we really learned.
I really desperately wish that we had gotten the opportunity to study philosophy in high school. I did get the chance to take psychology and sociology, which I really enjoyed both of those. But
I will be honest, though, I don't really think we did much. I can't remember doing much in that class, like my ethics class.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a small group of small class, so.
It's sad that most people probably learned more about ethics from The Good Place than they ever did in like an actual academic setting.
And I mean, that kind of speaks a lot more for the American education system right now. So.
To be done, yeah.
Well, the education system as a whole. So. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so our last paragraph, just so we can finally finish this fucking article. Watching our heroes stick to their convictions, even against insurmountable odds, wrenches up drama rather than destroying it. The concept that good can ultimately triumph over evil is a timeless one, and stories that rally around this trope, around unadulterated hope, can help guide us through the year's ceaseless onslaught of calamities. Okay,
Okay.
Have you not played a fucking? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No,
You go
I
first.
honestly got nothing because it relates to movies, not video games. So you got.
Well, it's still an example, and it's worth pointing out. So if you want to go ahead.
Well, I was going to mention The Dark Knight. I went a few sessions of The Dark Knight, but if anyone remembers the the big the big line from that movie, which I think was or it's a pretty famous line. You either die.
The hero you deserve.
No. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And also it does tie with the original saying of Bruce in Batman Begins, with Batman being a symbol that is incorruptible.
Mm-hmm.
While Bruce Wayne the Man is very much corruptible, if anyone's seen The Dark Knight. Like, choosing more emotional attachments than choosing what's best for the city.
Cough, cough, Rachel, cough.
Rachel!
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just it's interesting to pose the idea of the symbol of the hero, like to pretty much the audience and stuff. It can be incorruptible, but when you really dig into the man behind the myth, or woman behind the myth, I guess, also, you see that they are just as fallible. That's how you use the word, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, you use that. They're just as fallible as you and I. But again, they do their best to be what the people need, is the thing.
Here's my contribution to this particular go round, I guess. What you just described, sir, is fine. What you in the article just described is fine. But here's my question, and it's really going to, I think, fuck with your head. When push comes to shove it, would you be saying the same thing is good if the hero in question believes different things from you? If somebody made a Superman movie where Superman was still the mom baseball apple pie, old school sort of 1950s dad traditionalist caricature that he was back in the Golden Age. If somebody made a movie where Superman was that, or where James Bond was still the hard drinking, womanizing, slap her on the ass and turn her around and kiss her type of suave, debonair jackass, would you be willing to say that that's still a good thing? Or perhaps would you say that the correct thing to do in that situation is to subvert expectation? Because I would bet dollars to donuts that you would say in the event that the standards the character was adhering to were not your own, you would be wanting some morally gray. But because you assume that you have the right answer, and only your answers would be applied to a morally white character, quote unquote, you can't see your own blind spot there. Whereas, as an example of what I'm talking about, there is a character in Terry Pratchett's Disco novels, which are great, by the way. Pretty much every single one of them is awesome. But in this particular case, I'm going to use the example of Granny Weatherby. She is the greatest witch on the Discworld. And she is awesome. Like, unambiguously, she is probably the best witch character ever written as far as I know of. being that as it may, in one novel, she, in the novel Carpe Jugulum, she, in her duties as a witch, has to do all the midwife stuff. So she has to deliver children, she has to care for the sick, yada yada yada, as like a medieval style witch would. In one novel, though, she has to induce a miscarriage in order to save a mother's life. And naturally, because the Discworld novels have always been somewhat satirical, the narrator uses this as an excuse to go off on pro-choice arguments, which I, by the way, have no problem with. But here's the gray bit, as it were. Someone in the novel literally asks Granny Weatherwax, shouldn't we consult the husband on whether he wants to save the baby or save the mother? And Granny's response, which she repeats like 3 consecutive times when the person innocently asks like 3 separate times, should we maybe talk to the father about what he wants to do about this? He has no part in this, and then she says to give the husband any part in this would be to put too much responsibility on his shoulders. Now, my stock response to that, as a men's rights advocate, was, well, don't you think if the situation was reversed and he was the only one you talked to, you would be saying, shouldn't somebody ask the mother? Because, of all the pro-choice reasons you can think of, why somebody would ask the mother about divorce. However, my point in bringing this up is, while I fundamentally, to the very core of my principle, disagree with Granny as a character in that instance, I still admire her rationale, even if I can see the obvious negation to that. Could you, writer of this article, do that with a Christian character or a overtly patriarchal character or a womanizing character? Could you do that? Could you consider them good for sticking to their principles and their standards, if those standards were something you disagree with? Because I'm betting my reputation that as soon as the person who's supposed to be on the side of good does something you disagree with, you will call that person a morally gray character, even if they're not written as one. And you might even criticize a game or a movie or whatever for framing what you would consider a morally gray character as a morally pure or morally white character in the parlance. That's the head fucking catch-22 there. Can you be consistent no matter if you disagree with the character or not? Or do all characters who you consider morally white hat have to be entirely in agreement with you, and all characters who are morally black hats have to be in direct opposition to you? And if there was a villain who did agree with you on something, would you find yourself saying they're not as morally black hat as everyone is saying, even if that's how they're written? If somebody writes a morally black hat villain in a way that might agree with something you believe, can you bring yourself to say, regardless of whether they agree with me or not, that is still a morally black hat character? Because I don't think you can. And therein lies the head fuck for you, sir. It's called consistency, and it's a son of a bitch. Moving on.
Right. Okay. Give me 1 second. So I already have, thank God, I already have the article pulled up. Well, by pulled up, I mean not on the screen yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I pulled it up when we got to the last art.
By the way, did you check the audio to make sure that both sides of this is coming through? Because I'm kind of paranoid that we'll get done and like half of our rants will be missing or something.
Oh yeah, no, I've been monitoring that it's mainly just coming through mine, but I think it's coming through pretty well.
Okay.
I also did. I've also been. I also started to share the host tab. It worked. So this Polygon article.
Okay.
All right. I think I sent you Randall. Did you?
Wait, start with it.
The Avatar.
I can't.
Legend of Korra imagined. No, Korra is more important Avatar than Aang.
Oh, I think that might have been mine
Right.
that I sent to you, but I could be wrong. I'd have to actually go back and look at our DM.
Yeah. Okay. So this is from Polygon, and again, I can't have it be also screen sharing on Discord.
Right, because of the fucking
lag
slowness of your computer.
Yeah. Like I said, my computer's like over 10 years old, so I don't really want to push it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, it's from Polygon. Korra. The title is Korra is a more important Avatar than Aang. It's by Toussaint Egan. It's published on August 13th, 2020. We did this so we did find this article like a week ago, and it kind of just
it worked out really well because we've been talking a lot about the dichotomy of Legend of Korra and Last Airbender in our conversations before stream.
Yeah.
So it just sort of seemed to fit.
There was also something I wanted to discuss with you, Dalton, prior to to the whole StreamYard bullshit that's been going on. Since the fact that Korra, along with Avatar, is on Netflix now, I was curious if you would be willing, sometime during the week, if we could do somewhat of a watch party, maybe of season 1 or like the first couple episodes on Discord, and where we would have a discussion about it.
Cool.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
So yeah, folks, you heard it here first. Probably maybe Wednesday or at least Friday, possibly.
Yeah.
We will do a watch party of maybe the first couple of episodes, maybe the first season or something, and we'll just have a discussion. You're free to come and maybe even have like actual discussion with us and stuff. So, and that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll have the same points we'll have with the watch party that here. Then, it's relatively short compared to the last one, but again,
fuck. like when the articles get unearthly long like that, I sit there
I mean, somehow this shit, like Polygon is, I'm gonna say Polygon is worse than the Mary Sue. Not in terms of content, but in terms of length of the articles. Because I mean, Mary Sue, the Mary Sue is shit.
It's less stupid overall, but it drags it out so fucking long.
Polygon or Mary Sue?
The Polygon is it's less sheer stupidity overall, but it's dragged out in such a monotonous and academic and mechanical tone. If the last article was anything to go by, I mean, it makes it work.
Yeah.
At least Rachel Leishman, God bless her soul, she still speaks like a human being. Even if she goes into typical feminist jargon, that's the kind of thing you expect in the Mary Sue because it's a feminist publication. But she still throws in a few attempts at zinging and attempts at humor. But the fucker from Polygon that we just got done dealing with for 3 weeks worth of show was just like droning on and on and on and on, listening to himself talk. And I am hardly in a position to cast the first stone. I'm not one. But
yeah, but you at least stay consistent with your ranting. That's the thing.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's one thing to have a point and to fervently express that point. It's quite another to express nothing and to not even seem to have a point.
Right. Okay.
While talking incessantly for no good reason.
Also, this might be the first time we actually finish one article in under an hour. Speaking of the last article, I mean, granted, 3 weeks, but still.
Yeah, but that one's. I think that one's going to go down in history, along with the adaptation should be worse than their source material article from a couple weeks ago, and the I'm better than everyone because I don't like Game of Thrones article from episode 12.
Yeah, it's we got some good hits. Anyway, so to read the it's not byline, it's subheader.
Mm-hmm.
I took a journalism class. I can't believe I forget some things like this.
Yeah, I know it's really weird. Like
right.
the stuff you forget is weird, but the stuff you keep is even weirder sometimes.
Right. Granted, we hardly did anything similar to journalism in that class. I was a sophomore when I took that class.
Well, to be fair, nobody in modern day journalism really does journalism very well either.
Well, this was okay.
Gone are the days of Mike Wallace and Edward Murrow.
We actually watched a few movies specific. Like I think it was the Watergate scandal movie. Can't remember what it was called. If anyone
knows the one you mean, though. Did you guys end up watching Good Night and Good Luck? That's probably my favorite journalism movie.
Dude, it's been years. So, and again, like I said, we hardly did anything worth like actual journalism in that class. I think at one point we did have a project where we wrote like an article. Like we were supposed to write like a kind of news article for something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what I wrote. Anyway, okay, so the subheader for the article is Last Airbender fans might take issue with Legend of Korra's protagonist, but she's still more significant. Like I said, this is by Toussaint Egan and this is published on August 13th, 2020. And again, if I said that name wrong, I'm terribly sorry. That's it's
dear writers who have nigh unpronounceable names. I get that having the nigh unpronounceable name kind of might be a style unto itself, but when a person can't get through your name without wondering if they're saying it wrong, it might be time to consider a catchy pen name.
Mm-hmm. Like, Dalton, you and I have had a discussion on pen names, like specifically one I'd come up with for writing. Sometimes, though, granted, you did say that I shouldn't because.
Yeah, your actual name is very writery all by itself, so I would just leave it.
And if you guys want to know the pen name I wanted to go by, it was Ryan Odinson. Yeah, it's, I think that was me.
Maybe save that for when you want to write something that you wouldn't want to publish under your real name. Like if you decide to write like a Bodice River a Harlequin romance novel or something.
What? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
That you'd be ashamed to publish under your real name.
Or, I was also thinking...
Like if Brainstormer decides to do his own version of 50 Shades of Grey or something, they don't make out the pen name.
Ironically, when I was younger, I used to write a lot of romance stories.
That somehow doesn't surprise me.
Does anything I do ever surprise you?
Sometimes, but I think after a year or so of knowing you, I think I know you pretty well. Not to toot my own horn, and of course I'm sure there are a few things that would still surprise me, but
Yeah.
After having lengthy multi-hour conversations with somebody once and sometimes twice or three times a week for more than a year, you kind of start to get a feel for the person.
So yeah, it's in the months since the animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender was added to Netflix's streaming library. The merits of the show's 2012 sequel series, Legend of Korra, has been so fiercely debated among fans online that even his own account shouldn't do. And I don't.
What you broke up really badly when you were reading that. What was the thing?
Okay. In the months since the animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender was added to Netflix's streaming library, merits of the show's 2012 sequel series, The Legend of Korra, has been so fiercely debated among fans online that even Netflix's own Twitter account entered the mix.
Mm.
And I said, like a company like that shouldn't go into a fandom that's having kind of an infighting.
Yeah. Dear Netflix, did you learn nothing from McDonald's weighing in on the Rick and Morty Szechuan sauce debacle? If you were a corporation, let the fans be the fans, and unless you're actually going to take their advice on something, like with the Sonic thing, or like Disney should with Star Wars, or quite frankly, a lot of sci-fi franchises need to fucking get their heads out of their asses and ask themselves what the people who actually consume the product actually want.
Yeah.
For one thing,
but
that's a different conversation. Unless you're going to do something like that, try not to stick your foot in your mouth by weighing in on a thing you don't understand.
Right.
It will only come to bite you in the ass.
Yeah. Okay. So what was I gonna? Okay. So what was I was saying. The show. And again, we like in the last few weeks or so, we've been having various discussions of Legend of Korra prior to our streams, and a lot of people have said that you should look at it on its own merits instead of a sequel show. And the thing I've said many times is I have like when I watched the show when it first came out, which was like 2012. I think I was still in middle school or starting middle school.
Which was the age I was when the original Avatar came out, by the way. Or actually a little bit younger than that. So I think it was 5th or 6th grade.
Okay, so I turned 13 in 2012. So
what? Yeah, I think I was 11 or 12 when Avatar first hit me.
Well, no, Legend of Korra. That's what they're talking about. And like I said, Legend of Korra.
No. I'm just comparing where you were when Korra first came out versus where I was when the first Avatar came out.
Yeah, I don't think I watched Avatar until like after the series had concluded.
I feel sorry for you that you saw Korra first.
No, I didn't see Korra first. I remember watching episodes on Nicktoons. If anyone remembers Nicktoons.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when Nicktoons started playing Avatar reruns.
Yeah, so
Nicktoons was a really good network, which Nickelodeon seems to dump all the things it doesn't like on.
Mainly live action shows, right? Like it's live action stuff.
Nicktoons?
Yeah.
I don't think it has a lot, or it didn't have a lot of live action stuff when I.
Well, nowadays.
Yeah, Nickelodeon seems to be leaning way too heavily into live action. Apart from the innumerable SpongeBob reruns, the Loud House reruns or new episodes. And is Harvey Beak still on the air? If it's not, it should be. That show's actually semi-decent.
Yeah. So
Nickelodeon's biggest problem is they'll start a really interesting concept and they won't give it enough room to breathe, because they want every show to perform like a SpongeBob or like Fairly Odd Parents did back in the day. They want it to be an instant hit, and everything that's not an instant hit, they downgrade. And it annoys the shit out of me.
all right, so back on topic. And like I remember a lot of people saying like, look on its own merits. And again, we've had this very discussion before. And I like I said, I saw Korra when I was young. First season I thought I was okay, and then for some reason it kind of just disappeared after that. Like nothing on Nickelodeon, and then I found out it was moved to Nick.com, which I found extremely weird. But that's besides the point. Looking back, I know it has problems. I think again, like I stand by the idea. I stand by my idea, my stance on the fact that it's the first season is probably the best of the four, and also and this is rich coming from me because I've always advocated a shorter season for shows, but I think the 13 episodes don't help the story. Because there's not really room to breathe and like explore the world.
Yeah, and there was a lot of filler in classic Avatar, which was occasionally annoying. Like if you got one that was like the Great Divide. The Great Divide is one that I think everyone agrees is probably the weakest episode of Avatar, Great Divide.
Which I'm willing to accept because I think it was in the first season, and let's be honest, it's the first season always is going to have rocky things.
And I'm of the opinion that the Great Divide would have worked a lot better if they had just left out the zinger at the end of Great Divide, which, you know, the famous, you could call it luck or you could call it lying thing. I think it would have been much funnier and actually much more meaningful if the I knew Jinwei and Wei Jin when they were kids and it was really just a ball game that they were playing was actually true. If this vast religious ritual had just been incited by a ball game between two brothers, that would have really been more meaningful, I think.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, main issue I think is really with the characters. I mean, a lot of them on paper work. It's just again in the execution that's the problem.
And a lot of that in Korra's case is because the writers got it into their heads to do the exact opposite with Korra what they did with Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Which I will kind of. I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah. The problem with that being, if you do the right thing the first time around, and you do the opposite of the right thing, very often you will find yourself intentionally doing the wrong thing and trying to call it the right thing. It's the DC Cinematic Universe problem. We can't be like Marvel because that means we'll be compared to them too much. Well, yeah, but Marvel did it right the first time. Therefore, by doing the opposite of what they did, you'll probably wind up doing the wrong thing a lot of the time, now, won't you?
Okay. What I was going to say, I would have kind of played devil's advocate. Again, it's mainly, and I've said this so many times with other things, mainly like Marvel Comics and stuff. It's not really the idea that's the problem. It's more so the execution that fails greatly. I think Legend of Korra could have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, like, I think Legend of Korra could have worked as kind of subversion of expectations if really they spent. Because I think it could have worked better as like a political conspiracy kind of series in a way.
Yeah, but and kind of going back to my point, because this is sort of a furtherance of the point. Not only did they try to do the exact opposite of what Avatar did, but they stopped after they managed it. Once they got to whatever the opposite of what Avatar was, they didn't feel the need to put any more effort into it, because I think they honestly thought that since Avatar worked so well and it was so easy and it flowed so naturally, that if they just did the mirror image of what Avatar was, that it would also flow naturally and come easily. Being is they kind of were standing against the grain, which you can do. You can do concepts that stand against the grain and shape the edges and whatnot.
Right.
But oftentimes you need a little bit more structure to fill in the gaps in those cases.
And like I said, you and I had a discussion of like how, because I'm gonna be honest, folks, at one point, and I think it was because of this article, when I saw it, I thought about doing, and I saw like a couple of videos on Korra and stuff. I thought about doing a rewrite video for season 1 of Legend of Korra. But I scrapped that because I already got too many things on my plate now. So, but
you should at least put it on the list to deal with it later, though.
Yeah, I might. I got like 5 scripts I need to finish writing for anyway. So, but you and I had a discussion.
And 4 story concepts that you need to do as well.
I'm almost done with 1, like plotting anyway. I think I should, like, after I'm done plotting that one, I should just focus on writing scripts for videos. After that. Anyway. What was I? I came up with the idea. Like, for season 1, it'd be more of like a noir detective story. Because here's the thing about Avatar. Like, the Avatar cycle is that every Avatar is different in a way. While their main goal is to have balance, they have to face the issues of their generation, like the problems of that time.
Yeah, the balance that's needed is different each time.
Yeah.
In Aang's case, what was needed was an airy-fairy pacifist who wouldn't hurt a fly. So, in all honesty, what they should have done, if they wanted to make Korra the opposite of Aang, created a story that required the opposite of Aang to balance it. But they didn't. They put the opposite of Aang in a world that was trying to do narratively the opposite of what Avatar did, but didn't functionally in universe have any reason to need the opposite of Aang.
Right. Okay. So, let us continue, and we'll bring up certain points we've again discussed off stream. All right. That's ironic, given the series' respective takes on the tumultuous nature of legacies and generational change, and how Korra permanently transformed the Avatar universe. Didn't she like destroy it? Again, I haven't watched much after like the first and half of the second season.
I guess in universe you can make the argument, because there was the unification with the spirit world arc, and I believe it was the last season.
Right. But what was I?
But out of universe, most people that I know that are Avatar fans generally just ignore and decanonize Korra, because most of the people that I've talked to find it annoying.
Again,
there's this black mark on Avatar's record. Not nearly as annoying as the M. Night Shyamalan movie, mind you, which no one touches with a 10-foot pole. But yeah, most people that I know either just ignore or decanonize Korra.
Anyway, right, what was I? Fuck, I lost my train of thought there. Again, I would honestly chop that up to...
You only watched the first and half of the second season, what you were saying.
Right, and I was going to say, like, mainly I chop that up, like, to Legend of Korra kind of sucking as much as it does. is again in the execution and really the fault of the creators and writers, which ironically did Voltron Legendary Defender, which I thought was good for the first bit, but kind of started to drag and not really work after like I think the second or third season. I think they have like 6 or 7. So you know, and that was I haven't even finished that series because I'll be honest, I lost interest.
I finished it when I found out that they were going to meddle with the spirit world. Because the thing about Avatar is, at least from like an Eastern mystical perspective, it is so good as far as accuracy goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, there's an entire episode where they teach the chakras, for fuck's sake.
Right. The Guru. That was a good episode.
That is still, to this day, one of my favorite episodes of anything ever.
Right. But I agree with that.
And then in Korra, I heard they were messing around with the spirit world, and then I heard that Iroh was going to cameo as a spirit in one episode, and I binge watched the entire thing just to see how they were going to fuck it up. And unsurprisingly, they fucked it up. Because why not?
I don't know. I know what scene you're talking about, and I think it is in the second season. Maybe in the later half. I think I stopped watching after Avatar 1, the first Avatar episodes, which I think are good in concept. I think mainly the issue is it does kind of. And here's another thing. I think it really kind of messes with a lot of stuff that was set up in Avatar, like this, like stories and like the lore. Kinda.
I think if they wanted to do an Avatar continuation, what they should have done, what they really honestly should have done, is shown us the transition period between the Lion Turtles energy bending era and the emergence of the first benders. That would have been an interesting film.
Right. Yeah, I honestly would have loved to see a show based around the first Avatar, which would have been cool, I think. But back to this.
And here's the other thing. If you wanted to make him act like an idiot, he can get away with it because it's his first incarnation. And anyone who knows much about, especially the Buddhist definition of reincarnation, the earlier your incarnation is, generally speaking, the more basic and much more of an idiot you are. So if they wanted to make Wan the self-important idiot, that would have made more sense. That's the other problem, is in universe, I don't see why the soul that used to be Aang would go from being this very, very zen person to the young asshole.
I don't know. I'm okay with that. For one thing, she's a teenager, and let's be honest, teenagers are really fucking stupid.
Well, but Aang was 12.
And he did stupid shit, too. I mean...
Well, yes, but he didn't do I'm the best thing that ever happened in the world stupid shit.
Again, like, I'm
still going to act like a 12-year-old even though the world is at stake shit.
Yeah, okay, I will grant you that. See, this is the kind of discussions we really should be having, Not the generalized stuff that's been going on since Korra came out. We'll get there, I'm sure, with this article. Anyway. Co-created by Michael Dante Di Martino and Brian Conniz. If I said that name wrong, let me try again. Brian Konnizuku. Again, if I said the name wrong, I'm sorry. I cannot read the name for shit. Anyway, Avatar: Last Airbender follows Aang, the lone survivor, and of an order of monks whose martial arts to bend air, who use martial arts to bend air into a weapon or tool. After a century-long slumber, Aang awakens to rescue the world from the ambitions of a tyrannical superpower. The three-season series is widely considered one of the best animated television series of its time, and maybe of all time, due to its dynamic characters.
You're goddamn right.
Due to its dynamic characters, beautiful animation, and sophisticated themes. Its accessible exploration of colonialism, authoritarianism, and generational change resonates with viewers to this day. I'm not sure about the first.
Was
You heard the.
I don't know why. I don't know why I expected them to leave Avatar the fuck alone with all this new colonialism shit. But
I don't even get it though, because there really wasn't anything about that in the show. There was a comic that came after that's supposed to be like season 4 that talked about it a bit, but it mainly talked about like the idea of decolonialism and how the people who have built lives from the original colonists didn't want that, and how they've kind of mixed and changed, and how different the life becomes.
Yeah, dear hipster media writers of the modern era, you cannot social justify Avatar. It simply doesn't work, because much like The Matrix, which we'll get into in a minute.
No, we're not doing that article.
We're saving it for next week, or the week after next, I guess.
Possibly, I have to reread that thing again. We're doing the Wonder Woman one.
Okay. But being that, however it may, my point was that recently the Wachowski sisters, which I'm perfectly fine calling them that, recently the Wachowski sisters said that The Matrix was a allegory for transgenders, which I'm perfectly fine with it being. My issue is that a lot of people are now saying that that is the definitive interpretation of The Matrix, or that there are no other angles or no other aspects to The Matrix, and that is simply not the case. Can you read imperialism and colonialism into Avatar? Maybe, sure. I think it would be a stretch in either case, because the kind of imperialism that people talk about when they talk about imperialism really doesn't apply to Avatar, because it's ancient Chinese imperialism in Avatar versus what they usually mean when they talk about imperialism and colonialism, referring to what the British Empire did when they were the masters of the world, basically. And those, there are very few parallels between those two styles of colonizing.
Right, and also
it just doesn't work, because. Sorry, let me finish my sentence and then you can go. It doesn't work because Avatar, like any good story, isn't just one-dimensional. It's not just supposed to fit one narrative. It's universal, which means it's multifaceted. Okay, go ahead.
right. Well, mainly I was just gonna add that the world of Avatar very much based a lot on Chinese, well, not Chinese, Asian mythology and cultures.
Yeah.
Again, I remember seeing a video about this, like how Fire Nation is Japan, Earth Kingdom is supposed to be China. I think also Indian.
Yeah, there's a few pieces of India in there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the water nations are supposed to be the Inuits.
Yeah.
And the air nomads are a very clear, almost one-to-one reference to
Nepal,
Buddhist monks.
What was it? Yeah, Buddhist monks. Yeah, so that, and it's weird. It was also, I don't know if I should bring this up now or save for later, but you know how the whole thing about like how I believe people are being accused of not liking Korra because she's black or something. I mean, it might be mentioned in here. You don't remember that? You don't remember people saying that?
This is the first I heard of it. Oh, well. There used to be a world where I didn't know about that, and now that world is dead.
I mean, it's still stupid, obviously, but I mean, it's there. I think again, like, no, not black, lesbian.
There are effectively no white characters in Avatar, like no Western or no Western culture individuals.
Which is
the world of Avatar, because it's literally all Asian and or ethnic.
Which is kind of funny. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's kind of funny on the fact that damn it. In Legend of Korra, it does kind of get a little more westernized.
Which, in my opinion, was a little bit of a mistake.
Honestly, I you know what, I kind of have to disagree because I like how it looks, like Republic City and stuff. It looks like a Chinese.
I think it could have gotten there by embracing more of modern Japan or modern Asia rather than like.
It looks like I think it looks like a Chinese New York. That makes any sense?
No, kind of.
Well, like a Chinese 1920s New York.
Yeah, the one thing that really annoyed me was the fact that lightning bending has become so commonplace.
Okay, well, okay. So I will refute that as it's been 70 years, and I would kind of assume more people would be taught it. And I get it that it's possibly something of the genes as well, but I just kind of figure, 70 years, a few generations.
Well, but I always assumed that this wasn't the first. Like, Avatar wasn't the first generation to figure out lightning bending or blood bending.
Oh, yeah. But you also have to remember all the other times it was the 100-Year War, and basically the guys on top of the Fire Nation were pretty much egotistic assholes, and pretty much wanted to, like, even to their own people, they really kept a lot of things for themselves.
True. But I always thought that lightning bending had been one of those things that existed for centuries, like even long before the war.
Possibly, but again, I think I don't know. I'm fine with it because I think it's a natural progression on the fact that Avatar Aang kind of sort of did generally by the end of season 3 did end the 100-Year War and stuff. That progression of learning new things, cultural integration, well, not cultural integration, Jesus, and stuff. I mean, the whole metal bending thing, right?
I do. Yeah, that makes sense because I can literally see Toph going over here and for other earthbenders seeking her out and stuff. But number one, they made it very clear how hard lightning bending was in
Avatar with Iroh and Zuko.
Avatar, which the word completely just escaped my brain. To the point that even somebody like Iroh couldn't really accomplish it effectively. The only two people that knew about it were the
Azula and Ozai.
Well, yeah, but when Azula was learning it, she learned it from the twins who didn't even do it themselves. They literally saw someone do it.
Yeah, they weren't firebenders yet. They were teachers to firebenders, which I think is cool, and I honestly would have loved to see more of their story.
Yeah,
Not to
Yeah,
mention the fact that they were
cool.
also. I know it was played as a gag, but when the beach episode, where the picture of the twins where they were younger, I feel like they were like pretty. At some point, they could have been like top soldiers within the Fire Nation army, like assassins or some kind.
Yeah.
Like that's my theory on it anyway. And also, not to mention the fact that when they were young, they were fucking hot. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't remember them well enough to comment on whether or not they were hot.
Well, like the picture. I mean, of them when they were.
No, I know, but I can't remember the picture well enough to comment as to whether they were hot or not. I will have to look it up later.
Okay. Yeah, just that gag though, like where it shows that they really are old and it freaks the kids out. It's funny as hell. Yeah, but okay, but I can understand it. Like, I'm willing to accept it because one, it adds the world building to like lightning benders help provide electricity to stuff and things. So I'm willing to let that slide. I think where the obvious issue would be like if it contradicts anything, of any lore established or anything is the issue for me. And it just didn't seem like that. It just seemed like a natural progression for the world.
I think I would have an easier time dealing with it if Korra was set a couple centuries after Avatar rather than just 70 years. Like if it had been 500 years or something silly like that, it might be a little easier for me to accept.
Well, okay, I don't. Okay, well, maybe for the techniques things, but I will say the technology makes sense because technology like that already kind of existed. I think just because the war kind of stagnated it for a while.
Well, also, lest we forget the mechanists and how far they had. But by the time they're introduced in, I thought it was season 1 where they were introduced.
Yeah.
Or book 1 where they were introduced.
Yeah.
And where things were by book 3, it makes sense that left to their own devices for 70 years, they would move things forward. It might help me though if more shit was based off of like clockwork and steam power rather than electricity, because most of what they did was clockwork kind of steampunk stuff.
Plus, think about it: Avatar and Victorian era.
Yeah, that would have been. I think that would have been a much more natural place for it to go, especially given ancient China's technology and how they moved things along with like gunpowder. And I think especially with firebenders being involved, it would have made a lot more sense for like fireworks and explosives to make a bigger impact.
Yeah, I did like the idea of the gangs, which is cool. Unfortunately, they didn't really use them much besides like the initial first couple of episodes. Like I think the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, which is the other problem. They introduced more interesting shit in the background and they never used it. Whereas if Avatar introduced something interesting in the background, they go to at least 1 episode to it, and sometimes more.
Yeah. All right. So moving on before we get on to another tangent.
There's a lot to talk about with these shows. This is like.
All right. Legend of Korra iterated on these traits from the perspective of a new protagonist, a female waterbender named Korra. Korra is the reincarnation of Aang, who was the reincarnation of his predecessor, Avatar Roku, and so forth. The series, set approximately 70 years after the events of Airbender, follows Korra as she embarks on her own journey to become the new Avatar, a spiritual mediator and protector, and the generation's only martial artist who can command mastery over fire, earth, water, and air. That's kind of out of sequence. I believe it's water, no, fire, water, earth, and air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I got nothing to say that. It's just
Yeah, it's just a, if you're going to comment on this, you really need to do your own research kind of thing.
Mm.
It's not like the sequence isn't repeated in every single episode of the original show.
And also,
it's necessary to the way that the Avatar works, because the spot in the cycle impacts the kind of Avatar they're going to be in the first place.
yeah. What's up, Ed? What's up, Ed? Says Yo.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got nothing to say really. Okay, so while all avatars share the same spirit and can access past avatar memories, each one is different from the last, and many of the criticisms of Legend of Korra boil down to the criticisms of Korra and how she's different from Aang. Not really. It's more of that she can't think of the word. She well, yeah, no, she is different than Aang, which I appreciate, because you can't have the same character.
But the fact that she's different isn't the problem. It's the ways that she's different and what she does.
I don't mind that she's cocky, because I mean, come on, you're being told you're basically like, you're basically the next reincarnation.
It's the predestined savior from childhood problem. It's the Anakin Skywalker problem. If somebody tells you you're the best, you're going to save the world, you're the sacred savior, from the time you're a child to the time you're of a reasonable age, you might develop an unnecessary ego, especially if everyone around you is catering to you and worshiping the ground you walk on. This is one of the things that my issues with Harry Potter as a universe aside, Harry Potter did right by making Harry miserable beforehand. It kept him grounded when everyone was calling him the chosen one.
Right. So I mean, unfortunately, I think
and also Avatar itself did well with Aang by making Aang not really want to be the Avatar, and also by putting him a century out of his own time with a bunch of dead people behind him, so that he would have enough grounding to remain a humble person rather than a self-important jackass.
Right.
Korra, unfortunately, has none of these.
Right. So I think like I said, I think, again, like, on paper, I think the character works for the most part. It's just really in the execution.
Yeah.
And also, I think the main issue is like how she was first introduced into the series.
Mm-hmm.
Where she just, where she's basically a child and is able to bend three elements, fire, water, and earth.
Which
well, okay, I also
was again a problem of the writers deliberately trying to be the opposite of Avatar.
Well, okay, that's okay. I will.
The problem with that being that Avatar did the right thing by having each element be something that the Avatar struggled with, rather than something that can be done instantaneously.
Don, I kind of have to disagree on a sense. I don't mind that the character is a prodigy. I think mainly it's that she comes out as this overtly confident character who basically is saying, like, you got a problem with me, then fuck you, is the thing. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do a prodigy character, and do them well. You could go almost an anti-hero route with her and make her basically the Avatar equivalent of Azula, and have her redemption arc, or her arc, be not the mastery of the elements, but the mastery of herself in the form of becoming a better person. Or you could have it be like Alice from The Magicians, where she's good at everything, but she doesn't particularly want to be, and so she's always holding back prevent herself from realizing her full potential. That would be an interesting story. Or you could have her be like Margot from The Magician, but have her be kind of an asshole, but having always to atone for the fact that she's an asshole, rather than any of the others. But you didn't do that. You made her a Mary Sue, and then made her an unapologetic Mary Sue.
Okay, I don't. And that's another thing. I don't think she's a Mary Sue. Like, if you look, I said because I haven't watched the whole series, but I know what exactly happens. She does fuck up a lot, and a lot of people kind of call her out on her shit and don't really care that she's the Avatar and just kind of brush her aside.
The problem there, though, is it's never allowed to linger.
I agree.
None of it ever is allowed to actually hit her. Like, we never see her actually suffer as a result of someone calling her out. And usually when someone is calling her out, it's framed as though they are in some way in the law.
Right.
Whereas it should be more along the lines of, again, kind of like a anti-hero Avatar equivalent of Azula, where her arc should be more about mastering herself rather than mastering the elements.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Ed says, I like the old experienced soul entering a new young body that explains young knowing things with extreme confidence. I don't know this or any anime story, though.
There are a few. I know at the end of the second arc of Magi, which is a really good anime that my boyfriend introduced me to, by the way, so anyone that hasn't seen it, both the original series and the first two arcs of the original series and the spin-off are on Netflix, and you should watch them. But at the end of season 2 of Magi, Scheherazade, who is the oldest Magi on the planet, gets reincarnated, quote unquote, into her son, Thetis. So they kind of do that with him a little bit, because he already had part of her knowledge because she raised him, and then she left behind her staff, which sort of taught him other things that she wanted to pass on to him. So yeah, it's been done in anime, is what I'm saying.
Right. Not to mention all the weird thing about like how characters that look super young but are actually like,
old.
Yeah. I mean, granted, some of them are like mortal and stuff, or just have like look really young, Anyway, Ed Brewer says Ben Shapiro's wife is a doctor and Dalton has a boyfriend who was also a nurse, right?
Yeah. Yes, he is a male nurse.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay. So, fans fought about the show's portrayal on an evolving hero when it debuted in 2012. They fought about the show in the year after its finale, and with the series arriving on Netflix on August 14th, they'll likely fight about it again. Again, like the whole thing is mainly one, it's too fast paced.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing. It doesn't have that moment of peace. Well, not peace. That moment of slowness that really sets you. That gives you the sense of the importance of the moment and also bless you.
Yeah, there's no gravity because we're never allowed to see any subtlety in Korra. Is the thing.
Right.
The thing with all those training montages in Avatar: The Last Airbender was it wasn't just about showing that this particular skill is hard. It was showing that each small failure or each small day-to-day thing had an impact on the character. Like there are so many episodes in Avatar that are just these characters get together and go off and do a thing that has particular relevance to one or more of them. Like,
right.
some episodes are just, hey, let's go to the theater, or hey, let's have Toph and Katara have a bonding day over a girl's day out, or hey, let's follow Iroh around on an allegedly average day, and then later at the end of the episode reveal that it was the day his son died.
No, it was his birthday, I believe.
Or yeah, it was his son's birthday. But
oh God, I'm having
yeah.
Oh fuck, I'm having Leaves of the Vine.
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks.
Fuck. You see, this is the power of the small day-to-day moments in Avatar.
Oh, dude, do you remember?
I just mentioned Iroh's story from one of the anthology episodes, and we're both sitting here having struggled flashbacks to that episode.
Like I want to cry right now from that, man. Also, one of my favorite parts was actually Zuko's story, where like he goes on a date.
Mm.
That was nice. It was really like that's yeah. Like it's a part I really think in Zuko's journey,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, Avatar's.
But point being, none of that is in Korra because none of that is allowed to happen in Korra.
Yeah.
We're never the problem with a lot of action animes and the problem with a lot of action cartoons when they're done badly is the characters only exist when the plot needs them to or when the action needs them to. What separates them from something like Avatar is the characters are fully realized and the true test of any character, as someone who is a critic for basically a living now, is does this character continue to have a life when the camera isn't looking at them? In the case of the characters of Avatar, the answer to that question is most definitely yes. Whether or not the show is playing, you truly believe, if you watched Avatar and you've let it hit you, that those characters continue to exist entirely regardless of whether we as the audience are seeing them or not. With Korra, and the characters from Korra, I don't know if I can honestly say that, because they fall into they only exist when the action or the plot needs them to.
Right. And I remember there's a video, and I don't know if I sent this one to you. Maybe I didn't, but there was a video I had watched about Korra, and how characters are kind of taken from Avatar, but put in like have like small percentages of actual good characters from the Avatar series and aren't done as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'd have a discussion with the creator of that video.
I think you did send me that one actually.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. Like, I mean, to a certain extent, I think mainly the issue again is one, there's not enough time to spend with the characters because again, like each season is only like 13 to 14 episodes long, and usually I find that it's okay, but I think that works better for live action than animation.
Yeah.
But I think again, like it's because there's such a short amount of episodes and it has to be like a fast-paced action that you don't really get to spend time with the characters, and the time you do, they don't really do much. It's just really like kind of like okay. So I was watching, I believe, episode 4 of Korra, like a clip of it on YouTube earlier today, where it's like Bolin, who's like the comedic relief, but is cringy as hell. I'm not gonna lie. And that's just all he is the comedic relief. That's all. And like he's hanging out with Korra, and it's supposed to be kind of like a non-date date, and that's all it is really, and there's nothing really else. Like it's supposed to create like this love square triangle thing with like the four main characters, I guess, and I just do not. One thing, do not get me started on the whole trope of love triangles. We'll be here all night. But whatever. Again, and like, there's nothing to be revealing of like the dialogue or the characters. It's just a plain forward. Bolin is an idiot and thinks this is like an actual date, and he's trying to hit on Korra, who's just trying to actually have fun with a friend. That's all it is.
Yeah,
and that's my problem. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm sorry.
Here again, we have the problem of the thing about the small moments is they're supposed to tell us something about the characters or add something to the characters that we couldn't see otherwise. And there's a perfectly valid reason why shows do this. Good one. Because oftentimes, what a person does when they have nothing else to do says more about them. Because the thing about things that people choose to do when there's nothing else to do is that they choose them. Like as an example, tell me something from one of the characters from the original show that once the big battle is over and everything is squared away, what is Iroh going to do?
Have a tea shop.
He's going to go and open his tea shop.
In Bossing,
he's going to go and probably train some young warriors, or probably just travel around the world with his friends, trying to make them laugh, because that is what Sokka is going to do. Zuko is going to try and redeem himself from all of his past mistakes, and also deal with his mother issue.
Well, okay, I would say it kind of furthers more into redeeming the nation in the eyes of the world.
Yeah. All of these things are things we know about these characters because we've had moments where there's been nothing going on. We've had moments with them where there is no plot relevant to the episode. We've had moments with them where there is no big action set piece relevant to the episode. It's just what they would choose to do with freedom if they were given freedom. In fact, a lot of the internal conflicts, a lot of the personal conflicts, especially with characters like Zuko, come down to exactly that question: what am I going to do when this is all over? When I've earned my honor back, when I've got everything I could ever conceivably want, what am I going to do with it?
Dude,
that is an important question for every writer to ask themselves. Because if your character is just a means to get to the next big action set piece or this big climactic battle, then probably there's nothing to them.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna this point that again we had a discussion on before, but I want to save it. Okay, so moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. But the series qualities that naysayers often deride are also the reasons Korra lives up to its predecessor's legacy. While The Legend of Korra isn't perfect, it presents Korra as a more consequential avatar than Aang. And that is where I have... okay. How would you define consequential is a thing?
Yeah, because if we're talking about like how they mechanically changed the universe, I suppose you could make that argument. If we're talking in universe and only in universe, that makes sense. Because there was that merger of the spirit world and the non-spirit world.
Mm-hmm. And also, I believe I also believe the destruction of the Avatar cycle due to Korra fucking up immensely.
Yeah, yeah. If you're talking about only in universe and only in the mechanical sense, sure. But out of universe, there is no way in how. As case in point, there is no reason for people to pay attention to Korra if they don't like Legend of Korra. A lot of people I know just straight up ignore or decanonize Korra because they don't like it. And if Korra was as consequential to the overall culture or the overall fandom of Avatar as all that, or more so than Aang, nobody could ignore her like that. And even in universe, I can definitely see circumstances where people would make the argument in universe that Aang did more for the world than Korra did. Because in all honesty, at the end of the day, Korra just created more problems than she solved. Like, sad but true, but she created a lot more problems than she actually solved.
Right.
Korra didn't really solve anything. She just changed the universe and then was like, well, I guess she won't be needing me anymore. Wipes hands and walks away.
Yeah. From the first episode, The Legend of Korra firmly establishes Korra as both Aang's immediate successor and his polar opposite. I don't think she was immediate because I think she's supposed to be like, what, 4 or 5 when they first introduced her? You know, the first scene where she's sought by the White Lotus.
Yeah.
So it would kind of be like the establishment of the, Aang's been dead for 5 years, obviously. So, so again, I mean, you gotta define terms in a sense, is what I'm saying. But yeah, no, she is this polar opposite, where Aang really struggled with all the other elements besides air, which I think that polar opposite thing works on the fact that Aang was a master by the time he was, I believe, 12, right? At the beginning of the series.
Well, wasn't he 13 by the end of the show?
Yeah, he was 13 by the end of the show, and I think the whole show took place over a year.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Specifically a summer, because if you don't master bending by summer's end, Sojin comment for the ride, and Ozai will use his power to destroy.
Wait, really? Really?
Yeah, in the Solstice episode.
A summer?
You
what the?
Master bending by summer's end.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, it's just like, wow. A lot of shit happened in like 3 months or so.
Yeah, pretty much. If we assume that the solstice that they were talking about was the summer solstice, then yeah, he had from June 21st, which is summer solstice, through the end of summer, which, let's be charitable and say beginning of September.
Right. Okay. So, what was I going to say? Right. I was going to say, it made sense that Aang would be that Korra would struggle with Eren, the more spiritual side of being the Avatar. I don't mind that she was like kind of a prodigy with the physical side. That made sense. Like if you're doing kind of a opposite of Aang, that makes sense to me.
From a narrative structure perspective, it doesn't really make much sense because it cheapens the meaning of the elements if they're that easy, and it also sort of makes the rest of things a clusterfuck. Whereas Avatar has...
Well, okay, here's also the thing is we don't really see her learning a lot. We really just kind of skip to her her mastery over fire.
Yeah.
You know? Which also was which is if you remember I think I sent you this video where there was a video saying that Korra was like the spiritual successor to Zuko more than Aang.
Yep.
Which I kind of can see more, to be honest.
Yeah.
On the fact that, if you remember correctly, she uses fire more than any other element in the show.
Yeah.
She's hot.
Which again, if you wanted to make her like the logical successor to Zuko, and had her basically be gender flipped Zuko, then that itself would have required more depth of character than she got.
Yeah. Really, again,
because again, Zuko's whole problem was mastering himself and deciding what the fuck do I want to do with my life and myself.
Which is interesting when, if it's like, place Zuko in the role of the Avatar, and like with the stuff he already has, and the Avatar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, but what's more, the problem with even that parallel is Korra never really suffers. Whatever you may think about the raw hand that Zuko was dealt, his suffering really defines him as a character, and his wanting to redeem for that suffering. The problem with Korra is she's like Zuko in terms of attitude and in terms of power, but she's like Azula in terms of her like innate abilities and her just general way of carrying herself.
So demeanor.
So it's like someone took Zuko's character and personality and grafted on Azula's talent. When, if you remember, I believe it was one of the Northern Water Tribe episodes of season one of the first big character moments for Zuko that made him more than a two-dimensional villain was, I am not my sister. She's had everything handed to her, and I've had to struggle, but that's made me better. That's made me able to handle myself, and so on. So basically, you took the thing that motivates Zuko, and you've taken that away by giving him Azula's talents.
Right. And again,
if we're to play this to it logically.
Right. And again, like what we said earlier, it would have made more sense if you were going with the prodigy angle of the Avatar. You could have really played up Azula, like the Azula part,
especially if you want Korra to start as the cocky asshole, have her be the cocky asshole, and have her do some genuinely bad shit with her powers. Like, have her basically be the first potential Avatar to go dark, or to threaten going dark. That would be really fucking interesting to see. So, because then you essentially have the same sort of quandary as you have with a dark Superman character. Someone with all the power in the world and all the specialness in the world is now possibly going to go villain.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fucking hell of an interesting arc. For her deciding, her being for her. Here's how I would write it. She does increasingly morally ambiguous things to the point that she finds herself doing something heinous, and at first doesn't even realize it. But then she catches a look of herself in the mirror. Kind of like a more elaborate version of what happened when Aang was going a little too overboard when he was studying with the old firebending master, and he gets playing with the fire, and he thinks for just a second that it's easy, and then he burns Katara. That's something that Korra needed. She needed I'm the best, I'm awesome, oh shit, maybe I don't control everything, or maybe even if I do control everything, I shouldn't go that far.
Right. It would
She
be
needs
interesting.
someone-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it would. I think it would have been interesting because I actually have thought about this for a story I'm working on. Actually, oh boy, I need to pace myself in that stuff. Anyway, a character arc where this character starts off, pretty much like the lovable goofball, sweet kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then through yada yada, that story, magic bullshit. Kid, yeah. The kid gets stuck in another universe for a while and comes back and basically kind of starts acting villainous, kind of an antagonist. And throughout that kind of story arc, you see him. The protagonist is very much the antagonist in the story
Mm-hmm.
to everyone else.
Mm.
I haven't gotten there and how to do it, but basically that, yeah. Like, I would like to see. I think that would have been cool to have Korra for a time be essentially the antagonist of the show, but also be the protagonist.
Yeah, and then she can have a Zuko style moment of oh god, what have I become? Like he did in most of the early part of book 3, after the Ba Sing Se betrayal, something like that.
Yep.
That's what Korra needed. She needed her. She needed her big climactic character development moment to peak, and for her to actually make the wrong choice.
Again, and that I think that's mainly
way back up.
Yeah, mainly this. The main issue is the pacing of the show, Legend of Korra.
Mm-hmm.
It's too quick. It's too snappy, which can work, but for a show, let's be honest, it's very much character focused.
Yeah, Avatar has always been they're both very character focused and very world focused, and this is the great thing about Avatar is the characters and the world mirror each other because there is that harmony of humans affect nature, but humans are also a part of nature. Therefore, they're pieces on the chessboard as much as they are players.
All right. Moving forward.
Yep.
Okay. Where Aang was a peaceful, playful, irreverently silly child with an indomitable sense of moral clarity. Korra is combative, fierce, and confident to the point of impertinence.
I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Impertinence. Definition, if you don't mind.
It means like willful childish stupidity, or like.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A lack of caution.
Yeah. Okay. So Korra is combative, fierce, and confident to the point of impertinence toward her elders and mentors. Where Aang initially resents the responsibility of bringing balance to the world, Korra revels so readily in her powers that her first on-screen line is literally, "I'm the Avatar, you gotta deal with it." Which, okay, I don't mind. Again, like, I've been watching a guy who's been reacting to Legend of Korra.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I watch reactors sometimes, folks.
Yes.
Shame me all you want.
Commence the silent judging.
Hey, the guy actually has.
Gentlemen to your glass houses.
I will be completely honest. The guy has been able to. I don't know, maybe he's majored in philosophy or something, but he's really been able to add a lot of interesting insight into the show from his perspective. I like it. Anyway, wow. The idea of the character basing her idea around this essentially Christ-like figure is an interesting one. Again, on paper, It's more the execution that's the problem.
Yeah, but here's the problem. When a character is that confident from the get-go, you have three options. You either make them inherently wise, like a Merlin type character, and therefore their confidence is justified. But that's really, really hard to do. Or option two, you make them over the top arrogant on purpose so that they can be brought down a peg, like Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, actually basically every Marvel character except Bruce Banner and Captain America.
Thor.
A lot of the Marvel heroes are based on the arrogance being brought down a peg.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Honestly, I think that one really works for Korra.
Yeah. Or you could do like I suggested and have her overconfidence lead to her being naive and arrogant to the point that she slowly, without realizing it, becomes either anti-heroic or villainous.
Mm-hmm.
Because fuck you, bitch, I can do what I want is great, but how many times can you fuck you, bitch, I'm gonna do what I want until you're genociding massive groups of people or, burning those that you love out of sheer stubborn arrogance. And then have her redeem from that. Mm-hmm. Those basically are your three options. You could have made her wise beyond her years, kind of like Aang was. You could have had her overconfident and then be forced to redeem herself later on, like a Tony Stark or Stephen Strange. Or you could have had her flawlessness slowly make her think that she was above everything and not see that she was slowly becoming the exact villain that the Avatar is supposed to counterbalance.
Yeah. As the Avatar, one of Korra's most persistent weaknesses is her over-reliance on the idea of strength and her latent belief that her status as the Avatar puts her above the advice of her loved ones and peers. Yeah, no, I got nothing to say to that. That's true.
Yeah, that's true, but the problem with that is they never bring that into the forefront. They always they imply that she did something wrong and that she's suffering consequences for it, but they never really. There's never she never hits rock bottom. She never has the equivalent of Tony Stark's chest injury.
What about season 3, where basically she has to be in physical therapy because I believe they do a time skip between seasons 3 and 4, which are like I don't know, 4 or so years.
Well, being that as it may, but unfortunately, by doing that via time skip, we don't actually get to see her. We don't get to see her suffer, and therefore we don't believe it when she pulls something out of her ass later. Or, more accurately, because this basically happens in season 4, she doesn't really change all that much. We hear a lot about how the old Korra needs to come back, or her friends encouraging her to act more like her old self again, or something. But given that it was her old self that landed her in that situation, and we don't get to see her come to terms with what she did, or that she even did anything wrong in the first place, it kind of takes everything that arc could have been, the I must redeem myself from scratch motif of like a Stephen Strange or Tony Stark, and skips over all the important bits.
Right. Okay. You know what would have been interesting? Let's say we keep season 1 as is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for one big change.
Okay.
Have Korra. When Amon takes her her bending, like her fire, earth, and water bending.
Mm-hmm.
嗯 have that be permanent. 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 嗯 have that be permanent.
would definitely be, well, or at least that he thinks is permanent.
Yeah, thinks it's permanent, and like have it be for the whole second season where she can only use airbending.
Mm-hmm.
Granted,
and she has to work her way back up to using the other three.
Or figure out also how to unlock them, which again could. Yeah. I feel like it would have worked better if it was like a 20 episodes season each.
Yeah.
Or at least add a couple more episodes. Because like I said, each season's only like 13 to 14, 13 to 15 episodes at least each.
Yeah. And have the main lesson of season 2 be, I didn't realize how much I was taking for granted.
Yeah.
That would have been a really interesting character arc for her.
Mm-hmm. Also, the bloodbending thing, which I realize is a tangent, like a side tangent, but it's real quick. I want to keep it like that. I feel like bloodbending became a little too OP in Korra.
I don't think the problem is that it became OP. I think it's that it became. It's similar to my objection about the lightning thing, but actually even a little more substantive than my lightning objection. Because it was very well established in Avatar what it took to do bloodbending and what circumstances it could be done under and what circumstances it couldn't be done under. And I guess the universe just changed its mind in the 70 years since Avatar, because there's no reason why, the moon needs to be full should no longer be a prerequisite, except if the moon spirit changed its mind or something.
Right.
I guess in Avatar you could do, but
honestly,
didn't really establish anything like that.
Honestly, you know what? If I'm being honest, I really would have added more of a spiritual side to the first season.
Yeah.
Like, you know how Amon first said that he was granted the gift by spirits?
Yeah.
However, I would have done it in the fact that he was given the ability by a lion turtle, like a single lion turtle, and have that be kind of an overarching evil presence for the series. Like an
evil lion turtle, that would be.
Yeah, and like he is technically spirit bending, but he's doing it in a very different way compared to the Avatar.
Mm.
And like honestly, you could have done the inverse of Aang and Ozai from the original series with
in sort of in a bizarro way, where what if Ozai had gotten the power instead of Aang?
Yeah, and like the whole visual style, but instead of Korra triumphing, like she's corrupted, and well, not corrupted, but again, it's the inverse of what actually happened, which would have been pretty cool in my opinion.
And what's more, it would have been a nice setup for a possible Dark Avatar, because I really think that would have been an interesting way to go with Korra.
Right? Well, no, not Korra. I mean.
No, I know, but after she gets her bending taken away and earns it back, if the thing that pushes her over the edge towards Dark Avatar territory is the meddling of that lion turtle.
You know what? She becomes kind of a pseudo villain on the fact that she had the fear of losing control.
Yeah, and you can easily set it up too. The day that she gets her bending back, she decides, I will never feel this powerless again. And in the pursuit of never feeling that powerless again,
I think
to blow the line.
Yeah, I would think honestly you would have the second season be entirely her like finding her masters, and like honestly I think season 2 would have to be longer than all the other seasons probably for that.
Yeah.
And
But
again,
it would be
honestly,
so worth it if it had been.
because
And
I
once
have
again, we find ourselves sitting here writing a better story than the one that's actually in the thing.
Right. Honestly, I'd have it be 4 episodes for each element she's relearning. Well, she's still training with air because that's the only thing she has left.
Mm-hmm.
But, and again, the difference with Korra's personality and Aang is Aang was always evasive in his fighting technique. He never tried to attack directly.
Yeah, in the words of Boomy, typical airbender tactic: avoid and evade.
Yeah. While Korra is very much aggressive and straightforward. She pushes through her opposition. And I think that would be interesting to see with airbending.
I honestly think it would have made more sense to make Korra an earthbender as well, while we're tweaking the concept, because her butt-headed style of things is very earthbender-like. It doesn't really fit with water. With waterbenders, we always see are very, even if they are more negative, their style is very manipulative, like Hama or like
I always saw them as more go with the flow, very close to airbenders in a sense.
I mean when there are bad waterbenders, their style of bad is I'm going to sit back and manipulate you, literally puppeteering in the case of Hama.
Right. Okay, so
which is very watery of them, because as per Iroh's descriptions, the water is about change and push and pull and flow. So naturally,
if I remember correctly,
the evil of a waterbender would be more in the line of manipulation, whereas Korra is very much, I'm gonna whack it with a hammer until it's not there anymore, which is very earth, as we see in Toph and Boomy and just about every other earthbender we ever see.
Right. If I remember correctly, the bending styles are very much based on actual martial arts.
Martial arts forms, yes.
Which one is freaking cool?
Yeah. And in the case of waterbending, it was Tai Chi, which is also very much about subtle energies and subtle movements. It's one of those martial arts that sort of crosses the territory into magic if you know your way around it.
All right. Okay, so we might have to hold this stuff off for our watch party later down the week.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah.
All right.
On with the article.
Okay. Did I... Hold on. Okay. Oh, these traits eventually create consequences which endanger both her and the people whose advice she's ignoring, whether through her inability to access the Avatar's full powers while grappling with the mental and physical damage inflicted on her during her showdown with Season 3 antagonist Zahir, or her indiscretion in trusting both the Northern Water Tribe Council member Tarlok and the Northern Water Tribe Chief Unalaq at face value, because they both represent power and authority. I'll be honest, I think the major problem with Avatar was the villains were always more interesting than the actual characters. Which is fine, that can work, but I think again,
well, it's not like it's an uncommon problem elsewhere, though. I mean, in basically every DC movie, that seems to be a problem. And in Marvel, they were so worried about that happening that for the longest time they didn't write very good villains, because they were afraid the villain would be more sympathetic than the hero. And in Disney movies, the villains always get the best powers, the best songs, and the best wardrobe. And just in my case, I think the more compelling motivation the ones have.
Yeah. Ironically, I think, I mean, not to stroke my own ego or anything. I think I have a good balance of both, like an interesting character, interesting hero, and an interesting villain.
Well, I think it's because you have a natural sort of understanding of human nature because you think about your you think about your own head and your own psychology a lot, and that occasionally makes you very good at reading other people without really realizing it.
Maybe. I mean, God, I don't. Nope. I'm not learning. Some other time.
Should we pull it back from the abyss? On with the article.
Yeah. Acknowledging Korra's foibles. Foibles.
Foibles, yeah.
I'm gonna look that up real quick, just because I have no fucking idea. Minor weakness or eccentricity in someone's character. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Basically, a personal failing. But the problem with foibles is I wouldn't use that word to describe Korra's faults because her faults are actually a lot more major, I think, than even the show realizes a lot of the time. And therein lies the problem. Her flaws are treated like they're minor and they don't matter, when in actuality, if they were framed correctly, they would make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have to read the full sentence. Acknowledging Korra's foibles isn't throwing her under the bus. In Avatar, as in any hero's journey, where you begin doesn't matter as much as where you choose to go. I don't disagree with that. Again, it's just Korra. I'll be honest, she didn't really have a journey, to be honest.
Yeah, she starts as the hyper confident bending prodigy, and she basically ends as the hyper confident bending prodigy that is so hyped on her own shit that she decides, man, let's just throw that entire cycle out the door. The entire Avatar cycle, we won't be needing that anymore. And
well,
also,
I don't mind. I don't
between the mortal and spirit worlds. Yeah, we won't be needing that anymore.
Okay, look, I don't. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna bring it up. No, not yet. It's going to come up. I know it, but we're gonna mention it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to mention it just yet. Also, she has a girlfriend. So, you know.
Yes, and I remain just as unimpressed with that now as I am, or just as unimpressed with that now as I was when it first aired, or when it first webcasted, or whatever the fuck.
It was on, in like the first season, I said, what was on TV. It just, every other season, I think, was moved to Nick.com for some reason.
I think after season 2.
Possibly. I don't remember.
Because it wasn't as successful as Avatar, and Nickelodeon didn't know what.
Which is weird, because back then I thought it was, like I said, back then I thought it was good. Just, you know. Okay, so in season 4, Korra chastises herself for past mistakes, but Tenzin, Aang's youngest son and Korra's spiritual mentor, comforts her by acknowledging her growth throughout their time together. When you first came here, you were hot-headed and a bit selfish, he says, but you've matured into a thoughtful young woman who puts the needs of others before herself. But we don't see, the audience doesn't see that, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, you can say she's matured and you can say she's a better person and everything, but arc-wise, it doesn't really make that much of a difference.
Right, again, and
what's her first mistake? As soon as she leaves Tenzin's place, she mouths off to a fucker, and it spirals into another big problem.
Right.
Because every time she mouths off to somebody, it spirals into a big problem for everyone but her, and she breezes on through it anyway.
Right, okay. And this is where the importance of, like, minor scenes come in. Like, scenes that, one, don't need dialogue, or, well, it could use dialogue, but like a scene where Korra gives money to some homeless people, like everything she has in her pockets at the time, to a homeless person.
we're not permitted to see, and they don't even need to be big, epic, life changing differences or anything. Like that was often the way with Zuko. The places you saw his growth the most was in the small scenes in Ba Sing Se between him and his uncle. Like in the beginning of the Tea Shot episode when he says, when Iroh tastes his tea, it's like, this is just warm leaf juice, and he sarcastically spouts off, "Uncle, that's what all tea is." And then at the end of the episode, or maybe a few episodes later, when he comes home from the date, he just quietly comes in and starts sweeping up him and his uncle's shop, and smiles because he knows his uncle's going to be happy.
Right. I was also going to say, the Tales of Ba Sing Se, Zuko's story, where he goes on that date. I can't remember the girl's name, which is a shame because I think a lot of people said that she would have been a better choice than May.
I like Zuko and May. They work together.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. I think
that makes sense.
I think so too. I think it's just I think there's a lot more chemistry maybe between Zuko and Zutara. I'm not really a Zutara shipper though. I don't really ship anything, to be honest. But I don't know. I just think there's a lot more potential narrative wise between those two characters. Anyway, that's a different rant for a different day. What I was going to say was the scene where he lights the lanterns for that well place for the girl he's on the date with real quick to like brighten her day.
Yeah,
that's a nice little moment that shows that he's doing something nice for someone they barely knows.
Yeah, season 1 Zuko would not have managed that. He would have either blown it by being the entitled Prince jackass, or he would have blown it by being so obsessed with vengeance and honor that he would have killed her accidentally just to get a shot at the Avatar.
Right. You know what? I just thought of a scene, like she's like in physical recovery, right? And there are some flowers. She's physically recovering with I believe Katara as her doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And like there are flowers, and it doesn't look like they've been watered in a while. And Korra like weakened, like she's weak and stuff, right? So she's been going through physical therapy all the time. She does to try and like practice bending again and like get her muscles working right again with that. She uses a little bit of water and tries to like sprinkle or like droplets upon them carefully.
Yeah, she tries to water the cloud.
Yeah, just because Katara says she hasn't watered them in some time.
What would have made that even better is if it was during one of the water healing sessions with Katara, and then Korra is thinking about mistakes that she had made in the past, and she takes just a little bit of the healing water that Katara is using and tries to bend that towards the flowers.
Actually,
that would have been.
Yeah, that actually sounds a lot better.
Because that would show not only am I willing to do this, but I'm willing to put something else, even if it's something small like flowers, ahead of me and my own needs. Because I don't know, I'm taking up all the water by my healing and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or someone else that needs healing more than her, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, sitting here writing a better story than the one we got in the show.
Right. Speaking of which, back to the article. Ultimately, Korra's faults become the catalyst for maturation. I didn't say that right.
Did I know?
Into the kind of avatar that the world in her lifetime needs her to be.
And again, I'm not so sure about that because it. And again, here's the issue: if they wanted to make her, the opposite of Aang, then write the world so that it requires someone who is like the opposite of Aang. Because the Avatar is supposed to be molded to balance the world that he or she winds up in. Like Roku was the necessary Avatar for the era that he wound up in. And Kyoshi was the necessary avatar for the world that she wound up in. And Aang was the necessary avatar for the world that he grew up in. If you wanted to make her anti-Aang, if you like, then change the world around her so that it can benefit from an anti-Aang, or that it wouldn't benefit from Aang. In fact, that would have been an interesting turnabout. If after she goes through a little bit of personal growth, she tries to emulate Aang to be a better avatar. And then either in spirit form or by having somebody that knew Aang tell her, the world doesn't need Aang now. What it needs is you.
He lives in you.
No, not he lives in you. It's have Aang show up and say, the world doesn't need me anymore. What it needs is you.
No. It's a Lion King reference.
Yes, I get the reference, but it's not really applicable here.
I know. You said it.
To be about the continuation of, like, you are like your father because he lives in you, and the exact opposite would be true in the case of Korra.
Right.
I said, in a world in an Avatar sequel that was written correctly, the reason why Korra was the anti-Aang is because the world needed the opposite of Aang, and you could even have it so that she starts emulating Aang in order to be a better avatar, and then eventually have her be so stubborn about it that either Aang in spirit projection form or somebody that knew Aang in his life,
Zuko,
like, yeah, or someone along those lines, or Toph, or
Katara,
or whatever.
Jinx, by the way.
Or yeah, just somebody say, I don't think, have tended me like, I don't think my father, or my father's ways can handle this. I think what we need is some of Avatar 4.
You know what? You know what would have been cool? Like, as a character for, like, a sidecast, having Team Avatar?
Mm-hmm.
Ty Lee's kid.
Huh?
Ty Lee's kid, like, have a kid from Ty Lee. Be like a part of the new Team Avatar.
I just want to know who Ty Lee would have ended up with, because that woman is not settling down with just anybody.
All right, then. I mean, Sokka, because I believe in the continuation comics from Avatar, Mai and Zuko broke up.
Wait, Mai and Zuko broke up?
Yeah.
That makes me sad.
Well, I think it's realistic. And by that I mean, like, it's not like a lot of other series are. I mean, there are couples that stay together, stick on the fact that you have a teenager who's running the country, kind of isolating himself from a relationship.
I think that annoys me the most, because Zuko deserves that ending already. He's done the personal growth thing. And especially if we're going by the everything in Avatar happened in the summer. Given the amount of personal growth that he went through in that one summer alone, I think Zuko gets to be done for a little while, at least on the personal growth department.
Yeah.
I think he gets the win in my head, at least.
Well, some people have said that he ends up with Suki.
He gets a happy life with his equivalent to a high school sweetheart. Goddammit.
Yeah.
Leave Zuko alone. He's done enough. Fuck off.
I don't know. It's interesting. You'd have to read the comics to really get, because I'm like paraphrasing because I haven't read them myself. I've seen like a lot of videos and stuff on them. So anyway, another obvious reason And again, we might have to cut this article short because it is kind of long, not as long as the one before. It's just
it's just inspiring a lot of fucking conversation. Is the thing.
yeah, which a lot of these kind of articles do. Anyway, another reason for Korra and Aang's opposing dispositions, aside from them being totally different manifestations of the same immortal spiritual constant, could be chalked up to the fact that they came of age in wildly different times. I don't disagree. It's just, again, within the context. That doesn't make the Korra better or worse than Aang. That's just how it is with generations.
Yeah, you're trying to argue that Korra was more impactful than Aang, or Korra was better than Aang, or Korra doesn't deserve the hate she gets, or something like that. And
which I would be honest, I kind of agree with. Like, doesn't deserve the hate as much. Again, it's based on it's all about context, really. I think I don't necessarily agree with people like hyping her up as like hyping her up so much.
She was the perfect avatar of color, or
don't. Anyway, again, like the thing with Korra is you don't really get much from her because there isn't much there. I mean, you could have a similar argument with Aang, but they at least took time to really build and flesh out that character.
Yeah, like one of the earliest character development episodes for him was discovering the bones of his people that were slaughtered.
Well, yeah, like the very skeleton of his father figure. Well, no, the man who essentially was his father, Monk Gyatso.
Yeah. Not to mention the Storm episode.
Dude.
The Storm was the first episode where I knew that Avatar was going to be one of the greatest things ever.
I think for me, the one that really solidified it, because I think like I said, I watched it on Nicktoons, so it was kind of out of order, like reruns on out of order kind of deal. Was really Zuko Alone.
I am really not surprised that you gravitated towards that one in particular.
It's a very character focused centric story, obviously, and also the fact that it has inspiration of like old westerns and stuff is cool. So anyway,
the lone gunslinger, yada yada yada.
Yeah. Also, the ending is just heart wrenching, to be honest. Anyway, Aang was raised in a remote temple by an ascetic order of air nomads. After being frozen in an iceberg for 100 years, he awakens to a largely pre-industrial, village-centric world, still gripped in the throes of a century-long conflict. I wouldn't say it's pre-industrial world. I'd say it's like on the eve of an industrial revolution. But that's just me.
Which is all the more reason I think Korra should have been more clockwork based and more steam based, because that would have reflected a better, more sound transition from what we had in Avatar through a kind of industrial revolution.
Yeah, mainly the Fire Nation really kind of had an industrial boom, to be honest. So interesting to think about. Anyway, I mean, I really have nothing to say about that. I mean, like, it's just, again, like, every generation has its good and bad. Like Korra, by contrast, is raised in a world characterized by having a lifetime champion in the form of an engaged avatar. I
don't really know. I don't really know if that's relevant to how she grew up, though. Is the thing.
Yeah, I got none with that. Like, I don't really know how to talk about that. Like, again, everything we just said before is like,
Well, like those facts are true, but you haven't made a good case as to why they impacted them.
All right. Okay. So, hold on.
Why did Aang growing up in the world that he did lend him more towards childlike playful pacifism, and why did Korra growing up in the world she did turn her into a self-important asshole?
Yeah, honestly, you think she'd be more, and like again, we had this idea, we had this discussion where, if anything, Korra would have been more of kind of the teenage, kind of kind of an archetypical teenager on the fact that she's trying to live up to a legacy of the predecessor before her, and like she has to grip.
Yeah, and it would tie nicely into what I mentioned earlier of she tries so hard to be like Aang, and she doesn't realize that the world needs her, or it wouldn't have created her.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, like, and again, that would have been an interest. Damn it! I know I need to make a video of this then.
We'll be. I think we'll be discovering new dimensions of this topic for a long time.
Yeah. Again, folks, we'll be doing a watch party of like the first couple of episodes. Most probably Friday, next Friday, on Discord. So be sure to follow. Join our Discord. Links in the description. All right, so we're gonna read the next 3 paragraphs, and then we're gonna cut it here and try to finish it next week, the week after. Okay, with the
well done, Polygon. You've twice in a row made us do a multi episode.
Well, it's either this or we try to or it's either this or we do something, or we try to finish this on Discord. I honestly don't like that idea, to be honest, because kind of alienates a portion of our.
Yeah. Also, I like that when we do this, it's there to rewatch when we can. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah, next in 2 weeks we're going to do this article again. Finish it. I'm praying that we finish it. That takes us 2 instead of 3 fucking weeks.
Oh my.
Okay, with the 100-Year War.
They never made us go into a 3-week rant.
2 at most, but never 3.
Yeah, Polygon, you're making the Mary Sue look good. Think about your life choices.
All right, with the 100-Year War over and Fire Lord Ozai's reign situated at the foggy fringes of living memory, the establishment of the United Republican Nations has yielded a nascent industrial boom in automation, transportation, and industry. It's a world that's familiar to the audience, but utterly unlike anything experienced by avatars apart from Aang himself. As Korra tries to complete her avatar training, she has to navigate the nation's capital, Republic City. The challenges she faces there test not only her resolve to become the Avatar, but her preconceptions about what role, if any, the Avatar should serve in the modern world.
You're teetering on the edge of subverting expectations, Polygon. Be very careful.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, again, like, on paper, it's an interesting idea. It's just, again, the execution kind of falls flat, because I don't really think they really expound or follow through really in the interesting ideas. Is the thing. I'll be honest. I do think it's a subversion of expectations. Like the problem with subverting expectations really started with Legend of Korra.
It's definitely a prime example.
And okay, so to provide an example, so I'm not just talking out my ass here. So season 1. Well, I've said it's probably the best of the 4 seasons, I believe. But granted, that's just because I haven't watched all of them.
Mhm.
I think it's the most coherent. However, the big thing that is the major issue for me is like Amon, and like who he is under the mask, because that was like a big thing in the community when it was first happening. Like I remember YouTube videos um, theorizing who Amon was.
Mhm.
Some even said it was Aang.
How?
I know, right? Like even back then, when I was like a preteen teenager, young was starting teenager, I was like, how the fuck does that work? It's the like it worked. The Avatar cycle only works.
The premise of Avatar is that it's always the same dude coming back again and again and again and again.
Right. I mean, the only
So,
way to Korra to have existed is for Aang to die. So, you know, it was just. I mean, it would have been an interesting idea, but I think it also would have.
Of the world creating a second Avatar.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking more.
And I keep going back to this idea, but the more we discuss, the more I really want to see this. What if Korra's role in being the second Avatar is actually to be the Dark Avatar? And to call back to your idea, what if the evil Lion Turtle entity rigged the spirit world so there would be a second Avatar, and it intends to basically do to Korra what Palpatine did to Anakin in Star Wars, to make a dark Avatar?
Yeah. God damn it! Now I really want to see that on screen. You know, if we ever get time travel in our, you know, if we ever actually get time travel in our time, we should go back and become the writers of Legend of
Part
Korra.
of me hopes we do, and part of me knows humans well enough to know that if we do, we'll just meddle with shit.
Well, no, just you and me, and try to become the writers for Legend of Korra.
Yes, and we need to keep this video around for points of reference.
Yeah. Hair in my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. All right. Throughout Legend of Korra's 4 seasons, she's confronted with the pointed question on whether the world has simply moved on from the need for an avatar to intervene on behalf of its people, let alone to act as a bridge between the human and spiritual world. Okay, if that were the case, then there wouldn't be any more avatars born. That's the thing. I feel like
if the world didn't need an avatar, it wouldn't have one.
Yeah, I feel like the universe would do something about that. And honestly, it would be interesting to focus on a series where there isn't an avatar anymore. Like follow
it also be really interesting. Do we know the time span between every single iteration of the avatar?
I think
I really now that they bring it up, I kind of like the idea that there are some iterations of the Avatar that have a longer time period between them. Like sometimes it's once every century, but sometimes it's once every 500 years or 600 years. Or hell, maybe back in the early days of the Avatar, maybe there's like 1,000 years between avatars.
Well, actually, I believe essentially when an avatar dies, another is born directly after the death, like the immediate death of the avatar, and the spirit finds another immediately. Because if I remember correctly, like the Avatar and the Fire Lord, you know, season 3.
Yeah,
it's shown that when Avatar wrote,
as Roku is dying, Aang is being born.
Yeah. So I kind of assumed that was like the
but part of me wonders if that's not because Roku kind of failed because he got cut off before his job was done. And so the universe was like, nope, you're not done. Get back in there. Get back in the saddle. We still want to avoid this.
It depends what you mean. Like, usually they wait. Usually, like the Fire Sages or the Nomads or whoever, wait until the Avatar comes of age to let them know.
Yeah.
So.
No, but I mean the spirit world or the universe, or however you want to put it. My thinking, or at least part of my thinking, was the reason why there was such a short gap between Roku and Aang was because Roku kind of got cut off in the middle of doing his job because of the volcano thing, and because of Sozin kind of meddling. So the universe was like, nope, you're not done. Get back in there. Quickly. We have a war to hopefully avoid entirely. Oh no, you got frozen in ice. Fuck, now what do we do? And 1 century later.
Mm-hmm. So, okay.
Yeah, but part of me feels like the Avatar should only show up when the world is either on the verge of becoming unbalanced or has already been unbalanced.
I think there's a video that comes up with a few different scenarios, and I'll find it and send it to you. Like pitching for Avatar shows, which I think would be a couple are interesting to me. But okay, back to this because we're nearly done for the first half of it. The answer is a resounding no, but the road to reach the answer and go beyond it is fraught with obstacles that push Korra to a physical, emotional, and spiritual brink. Again, it's the execution kind of doesn't really show that, is the thing.
Yeah, we never, again, the problem being, it's sort of like the Rey problem in Star Wars. Actually, Rey and Korra are very similar.
No shit.
We hear that she's going through shit, but we never see the consequences of her going through shit. She's never in pain as a result of her fuck ups.
Weird thing is, I'm sorry.
Or if she is, then time to skip over it, which would have been the most interesting part of that show, honestly, seeing her have to actually deal with rehab.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like if in Avatar, after Azula kills Aang and sort of saves him, it cuts directly to Aang already being awake and having already grown his hair out, without having the episode where Aang has to decide to come back. It would have basically been like that.
Right. So, and I say this is a joking manner, but if you want to do a proper time skip without skipping character development, put your main character into a coma.
Or give her PTSD. So that way, even after the time skip, we get to see her actually struggling with the character though.
I think the main issue is obviously the time skip between season 3 and season 4 is a couple of years. I think that's the big issue.
Yeah. So much storytelling could have been mined from just the arc where she's trying to get back on her feet.
Yeah. I think mainly the issues kind of stem from both the writing and kind of the producing of Legend of Korra.
Yeah, and actually, you want to see Korra's rehab done right. Look at Zuko. Both when he first starts feeling imbalanced, but also at the end when he joins up with Team Avatar and he goes on his multifaceted adventure with each member of the team to earn their trust. it'd be like if after and funnily enough, Avatar itself made fun of this with the play episode. It'd be like if after the Day of Black Sun episode, or at the end of the Day of Black Sun episode, Zuko was just like, "Hey, I'm good now," and they were all like, "Sure." It would have skipped over all of that soul searching and all of that necessary imbalance part to get from okay, I've decided to be good to oh, hey, he's good, cool. And how much of a like narrative cockblock that would have been.
Dude, can you imagine if that actually happened? Like how the fandom would have reacted?
My head would have exploded. I don't like I don't even want to mention it because now somewhere in the multiverse there's a universe where that happened, and I hate it.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, have you
just pause while I conjure up a universe to crash into that universe before it gets to that point, and so that will never happen again. I love the many worlds interpretation. The many worlds interpretation says that universes within the multiverse occur when you think of them. So if you think of one you don't like, just imagine the universe crashing into that universe so that it doesn't get to come to fruition.
I must have imagined a million different universes in my years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, those obstacles center on the series antagonist whose portrayals and ideologies stand as one of the greatest accomplishments of the series writing. Yeah, again, that's something we brought up earlier. Is more often than not, the villains of the story of Legend of Korra are more interesting than than the main character herself.
Mm-hmm.
Which I wouldn't have a problem with. If anything, it should be written as the villains expose more about what's behind the face of Korra.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's my major gripe. And also another thing, the seasons always kind of have this thing that kind of reminds me of like Arrow or really any superhero show, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shows like Arrow where it always has an overlying. Each season effectively is its own contained thing with a major antagonist,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't have a problem with because I do that myself.
And it's not like that's an uncommon trope among like shows.
Yeah, it's again, and it's always boils down to it. And I do hate that I have to keep saying it, but it's the execution that really counts, that really matters in this.
Yeah, and part of the problem with Korra, like I was saying, is the execution was kind of fucked to begin with because the writers got it into their head to take everything that worked about Avatar structurally and do the opposite, which could work if you're willing to fill in the gaps and fill in the holes like we've been suggesting for the last hour. But if you're hoping to just do the opposite of everything good you did previously and have it still work, it's not going to work because if you do the exact mirror opposite of everything good, then surprise, surprise, what you end up with isn't going to be good. If you take a structure that works and works really, really, really fucking well, like Avatar does, and you do the opposite of it without doing the legwork to make it work, you're just going to make something bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it did.
Okay. So, where was that? Despite their differences, each of the Legend of Korra's antagonists share contempt for the Avatar's role as a purveyor of the status quo that's either fundamentally unjust or counterintuitive to the responsibilities of the Avatar as an arbiter of balance. Again, that sounds really cool on paper.
But if you're not going to do anything with it or create a world that can do anything with it, then it's just disappointing. It's like getting all the way up to an excited point during masturbation and not letting yourself go off.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry. That was probably the most awkward metaphor I probably could have ever used. But
You think?
there it is.
Anyway, I'm gonna pull up the next article, which is, I mean, this topic is kind of related to stuff like how, but it's interesting. So I guess.
Yeah, we were gonna react to it. We were gonna react to it a couple weeks ago, but there wasn't really any articles written about it at the time. So
Yeah, so it's
had to wait until somebody said something in response.
Yeah, you sent this to me, right? Like, why can't Why can't Wonder Woman be plus size? Yeah. So it was talking about the I don't know, was it like a joke or
No, it's not a joke cover. It's a cover that's supposed to tie into Wonder Woman 1984.
it's so bad. It's so bad though.
It's terrible.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It's said to be a rooster.
Bad.
It's supposed to be a Rooster Teeth variant cover. You know, Rooster Teeth company versus Blue, and the
you're breaking up that thing.
I'm gonna. Sorry, folks. We're having some technical difficulties on Discord. Give me a second. Okay. Okay. Come on. This is what happens when you have a 2009 computer on things that were developed after 2009. Okay. Come on. I am back.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay.
Better.
We're back.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah. It's okay.
Still better than StreamYard. Uh, my phone to me for a second.
Yeah, we might see what that.
We might try switching to Zoom. I hear Zoom is supposed to be really good as like a video.
I'll check it. I will check it. I'll try and check it out in the upcoming week.
We're saying about the Wonder Woman cover that is ungodly bad.
Yeah, it was was supposed to be like a Rooster Teeth variant cover, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed. For those who don't know, it's supposed to be. It's a company that's based in Texas. That was very independent and started in I believe 2001 or so, and was popular for the show called Rebs, longest running web series ever called Red versus Blue. Coming through there, or yeah, and that's made a series sometimes.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, that called Ruby on WBY. I talked a few times, and I'll be honest, it kind of sucks now. Well, anyway, we are talking about the poem that was written by Marcy Robin, published August 10th, 2020. So the title is Why Wait, Why Can't Wonder Woman Be Plus Size? Artist Robin Eisenberg reimagined with a body. A people saw it as a fat shaming opportunity. But many comic book fans love the
Yeah. Also, comic book fan. Incidentally, point I wanted to make. You didn't just make Wonder Woman bigger. You made her out of shape. Is the thing. There are plenty of artist renditions of Wonder Woman as more muscular and more well rounded. In fact, one of my complaints about Gal Gadot when she was cast was that she was too skinny relative to what Wonder Woman should look like in my brain, which is the DC animated version of Wonder Woman, which was always very stocky and rounded, muscular-wise. There's no problem with different body types for Wonder Woman. The problem is you gave her a body type that is not aspirational, and what's more, given that Wonder Woman is supposed to be Diana, who is a Greek goddess,
demigoddess, right?
An Amazon, huh?
Demigoddess.
Well, in the original mythology, Diana is the goddess of the hunt.
Well, no, no, you're thinking of Artemis.
Well, Diana is the Roman version of Artemis.
But
Artemis is the Greek version, and Diana is the Roman.
Okay.
But being that as it may, in the comics, she's a demigoddess from Themyscira, which is the Isle of the Amazons, and therefore you would assume that being as they are offspring of ancient Greece, they would hold themselves to ancient Greek beauty standards. And the Greeks were very classical about their beauty standards, which is why we call it classical beauty standards, because we're talking about classical Greece or the classical ancient world when we talk about it. So not only does it not make sense from an aesthetic perspective or from a marketing perspective, but it doesn't even make sense from an in-universe perspective, because no Amazonian would tolerate that shit. Because she would be judging it by the standards of the Greek gods who inspired Greek culture. And you're honestly telling me that in a mythos that contains goddesses like Artemis and Aphrodite, she wouldn't look at that as the beauty standard, given that one of those is literally the goddess of beauty, and try to shape herself after that. That makes no sense. Moving on.
Yep. Sorry, I had to put my fan in the window. What is the fan coming through the speak?
No, you're fine.
Okay, I was checking. Anyway, yeah. So, We get it. When you look at an iconic character, it's easy to guess it was a specific incarnation of the character. You just want to which is not only functioning right, but it's misspelled. Huh? I didn't hear you.
Nothing. I was just trying to help you with the pronunciation, but
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was. It's also misspelled, and my brain is kind of a little fried at the moment.
oh God, dear writers of fantasy fashion magazine, get an editor.
Right. All right. So,
alone, for goodness sake, that's one step down from Vogue.
all right. So let me restart because like I said, all right. We get it. When you look at a iconic character, it's confused with a specific incarnate character. Usually the one to which you're first introduced, or the most popular or the most popular and recognizable version. But science fiction fan field, reimagining characters different ways. None of which are currently well bad.
Here's the problem. This is a false equivalency. It's not just one incarnation of Wonder Woman that looks like some version of the Hellenistic beauty set. It's all of them. And there are many, many different body types for Wonder Woman, which I will grant you. But none of them stray very far from the Hellenistic idea of beauty, because A, a lot of the cults and a lot of the comics take their inspiration from classical heroism, therefore classical hero aesthetics, and B, she's a fucking Amazon who was literally created by the Greek gods and sculpted by them.
Also,
I'm sorry, I can't imagine Zeus, who was the most coon-houndy of all the Greek gods, mind you, sculpting someone who's unattractive. And in versions where it's Ares or Hades that sculpt her, I have the same objection. Even if they're not as lusty as Zeus, it's still not going to sculpt her in a way that allows her to be fat.
So my perspective mostly is it's fucking bad art. It's terrible. In fact, it's even an official thing about the I'm about the merit of the art, bitch. You speak it.
That is the immortal question.
You know what?
Speak is their credit term.
Yeah.
Or do they find the very concept of speaking in their credit terms offensive?
You know what? That's either being made into a poster or something, or on a T-shirt, but it's going to be a picture of us, like cartoon version of us, like full fiction outfits, the same meritocracy. You spit.
Yeah. And when we have oriented an audience enough to have merch, there needs to be a whole bunch of those, because I feel like I borrow that phrasing question a lot. Like, logical consistency, motherfucker, you keep it, and so on.
I think meritocracy, motherfucker, do you speak it would work best for us.
Oh, there's no reason we can't do both.
Yeah, true. All right. So like I said, this is actually a relatively short article, so it should be a brief. It's just a way to exercise creativity and express love for the stuff. Also, when you create a piece of art, fan or whatever, and put it up there, it's allowed to. But also, this is fan art. This isn't fan fiction. This is an official DC Comics cover.
Yeah. And what's more, okay, is if you base something on a pre-existing property, you owe it to the essence of that property to be at least loyal. Then you can't be creative or you can't change things. You have to give deference to the correct or the essence of the IP. And if you can't give deference to the IP, then your changes aren't going to add to my house, but I would still like to change every single thing about my house. That's not a very consistent thing, you see, because generally when you like something, it implies some kind of tendency to conserve what's good about it. You can still make improvements or changes, but at some level, there is some essence or some focal point of the thing that cannot be changed to still be considered the thing. And if you as a fan picker, if you like, go in and change everything about a character, then you leave people with the impression that you didn't like the character. You liked what the character could be. It's a lot like a relationship. If I was in a relationship with someone and I was like, I'm glad I'm with this person, but I want to change everything about them, you would be perfectly justified in saying to me, you don't really like this person, you like what they could be, or you like the idea of falling in love with them.
However,
well, with characters and ideas, it's very much the same way. If the only way you can think to make something good or better is by changing everything about it, then you don't really love the thing itself. You love the overall abstraction of the thing.
mm-hmm. Not to say that actually, and I go to fashion, I go to DeviantArt. That there's actually a lot of talented artists that make great fan art and like writers too that do what they can write stories that essence of the original property. Like I can't tell you how many times I've read like a Ruby, my fan fiction that is so much better than current series as now. And like fan art that just, has that is absolutely amazing. It constantly wonder how the fuck did the artist not get asked to do comics and stuff? How are they not in the industry? Is the thing. It really just depends.
Especially with the things that actually are being produced
are fucking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a truly noteworthy bad state of affairs when someone on DeviantArt can create basically the next best thing to an Alex Ross cover, and they languish in obscurity. Meanwhile, stuff like the New Warriors or this get published, and we're left wondering, why in God's name did someone make this?
Right.
Especially when you can see other art that same person has made, and it's better than this. So you're left with the impression that the person is actively trying to make art look this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question becomes, why would they make art look this way if they have the option to make it look like a classically attractive, more aesthetically pleasing piece of artwork? And the answer invariably comes down to the fact that in art schools, subversion and critical theory and deconstructionalism is what's taught as the standard. It's considered good to undermine as many norms of merit and meaning as possible. And then people wonder why on earth they don't get the reaction they're looking for when they take something that is very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts and subvert, unentangle, and undermine it as much as they possibly can. And the answer, of course, being, no matter what they taught you in art school, darling, humans are not blank slates. They're not tabula rasa. You can't tell someone something is good and have them believe it when they are given the option of anything else.
Right. Okay. So, shall I continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
When artist Robin Eisenberg was recently inspired by Wonder Woman, she brought her unique artistic style to the incursion she did. I drawing aliens with realistic body types, living their life comfortable with themselves. She wrote in a post about the piece on both Instagram and Twitter. So an alien character with a realistic body type wearing our everyday version of Wonder Woman outfit. Rob, you didn't call yourself an artist. That must not with you. Or at the very least, work on your artistic style.
for the record, she is an Amazon, which is a creature from Greek mythology, not from science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
If you were drawing Superman like this, dear God, help us, but at least that statement would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But you left a lot of people with the impression that you think that Wonder Woman is an alien, which anyone can tell you, especially post-movie, is not the case.
If anything, she's very much a super evolved human.
Yeah, she's a creature of fantasy, not sci-fi. But you can't just change them out like they're unchangeable.
Yeah. And again, if you're going for an 80s aesthetic, try. It doesn't even work with it. If it was supposed to be a lot to, one of 94.
Look at the original Shira. Look at
Carmen Sandiego. Wait.
Look even at what's the name? The woman who's always in Meg Ryan or Molly Ringwald. Those were people that were big in the 80s. Look at Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Like, look at Josie and the Pussycat. I mean, look at all the various versions of Daphne from Scooby-Doo throughout the decade.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, DC, the entertainment company behind Wonder Woman, decided to use the illustration for very and tweeted out to DC Nation Twitter, to the DC Nation Twitter account, where Eisenberg won to be less likable and more narrow-minded family. Okay, fuck off. It's not fetching. It's
here is something that helps. Go ahead, thanks. So you go first.
okay. Well, what I was gonna say, it's not fan shaming. I think it's mostly just a critique of the fucking art. It's terrible art. It's super simplistic. It has no real it has no real depth or not dynamic. It's just a base app. Uh,
Microsoft Paint, basically.
yeah, that's pretty much it. It's so bad. Like no dynamic painting, no bright colors. It's all kind of muted, to be honest.
Numbers.
Yeah, it's okay. Please.
Okay, now then, something that Hollywood and those in charge of fandom in general need to get through their head. When fans talk about loyalty to a fandom, they don't mean just blindly accepting anything the person in control of the brand gives them. That's not fan loyalty. The loyalty of a fan is owed not to the company or the apparatus that creates the art or the IP, but to the IP itself and the essence and integrity of that concept. Which means that if you, as a CEO or you, as a company, horribly mangle the essence of what a character is or an IP is, then the most loyal thing a fan can do is not be blind to that change, but to call out that change. Part of part of the role, part of the difference between a fan and a consumer is a fan takes part of the responsibility as much of uh, they take as much a part of the responsibility for that thing as they do the product that they get from that thing. Which means when someone is doing it wrong, insisting on a level of quality control. We're loyal to the thing behind the brand, not the brand itself. So if the brand stops making good product, we will criticize that brand. It's okay. It's like if a and I'm gonna completely fuck this up because I have no point of reference to it. But if I was a sports fan, which far from possible universe here, if I was that, and my team started sucking, would I be a loyal fan if I just blindly cheered them on anyway? Or would it be more loyal of me to yell at the screen like my dad does whenever I visit him and he watches sports and throw my hat at the screen like my dad does when he watches sports? My dad is my main point of reference for a sports fan, and you can't keep it count. But point being, it's much more loyal to hold your fandom to a standard than it is to blindly accept bad things. Because when you blindly accept bad things from your fandom as a fan, it gives the impression that that's all you expect from a fandom, or that's all you think that fandom is capable of. Or, more tellingly, that you can't tell the difference between when it's good and when it's not. A true fan takes part of the responsibility and therefore takes a part of quality control with their fans. Which means if we catch you making a mistake, we're going to say something. It's a little bit like a friend who notices another friend has a drug problem. And one friend says, well, I don't care. I'm loyal to my friends so they can do whatever they want. And the other friend that organizes an intervention and tells them that they have a problem. Which of these is a greater expression of loyalty? The enabler or the person that actually holds the person to the standard because they love them? Which friend would you want in a crisis? Would you want the friend that's going to let you do whatever you want because I have to be okay with it because I'm your friend? Or would you want the friend that tells you, dude, you done fucked up, you need to get your life together? Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
Moving on. I'm going to assume yes. I didn't realize that featured one woman-inspired character with realistic body type will be controversial. It is. Eisenberg wrote, adding that once the book cover was completed, it was immediately met with hundreds of skating as well as again, that's mainly
Yeah.
that I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the art. I think, but I honestly it was right for anyone to go after the artist and critique the art for criticism.
But that being said, I don't inherently believe this person either when she says she was attacked. Because often people misconstrue people saying this person is a fucking moron as a personal attack when all it means is this person is acting or behaving or the results of their actions imply that they are a moron. And I'm sorry, but if you do a stupid thing, occasionally you're going to get called stupid for doing that stupid thing. It's not meant to be personal, but if you act like a moron in public, at least some of the public are going to call you a moron. It's not a personal attack, but in the immortal act.
Don't. But um, and I hear you. Yeah. Okay. Well, folks, I'm gonna my text. So I don't think I, but I cannot. So, folks, I'm not sure what's going on. It's 7 o'clock right now. Uh, unfortunately, we're gonna see what's going on, and yeah, I, I think unfortunately we're gonna end this. I'm sorry for that. So please, um, check our Discord out. Like I said a few times, we're going to go to this upcoming Friday. We are going to look at Leonard Cora, watch a few episodes on the one part. So yeah, have a good day and have a good week. Things are so